G'day everyone. I've got to stop this giggling when it comes starting time. But welcome everyone to Robbo's Tech Talk Tuesday. We're up to episode number 19, and I think we might be out of the bad lockdown session or getting close to it. I know we can start getting out and doing a little bit of hunting. And for those that know the Boag family, especially if you're a Samba hunter and in Victoria, I know you'd think that this man would be busier than ever. And he's been trying his best to work his way around these interruptions, but to say it's been probably a pain for him more than most of us is a bit of an understatement. But I'm sure he's going to give it his best try to get back out. And I'm just going to make sure he's there. He's been kind enough to jump on tonight. So are you there, Paul?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, g'day, mate. Thanks for coming on tonight. Normally, I guarantee you'd be flat out and it'd be the last thing you'd be wanting to do after a hard day after the deer. But it's bloody great, mate, for you to jump on tonight. But and we were just commenting on that poster behind you. It's a classic. I always see it pop up on your on all your sites and whatever. And for those that don't know, obviously Paul's not only guide the whole family. It's a tradition for how many generations now, mate?
I'm fourth and my kids are fifth.
Blimey. Yeah, well, and the kids are just getting to the stage that some of them are able to come out with you at all, or?
Yeah, my oldest boy's he's already shooting. He's 16, so he's already tipping a few over.
Yeah, so is he a better shot than the old man, or what?
Actually,
He probably reckons he is.
Oh, he is. He's actually he's got a bit of a gift for
Yeah,
Ben shotguns.
yeah, and your brother runs the hound crew.
Yeah, he took over from the old man. He runs it nowadays, so
Yeah,
keeps him pretty busy.
yeah, that's good. That's good. And for argument's sake, you've got your YouTube channel where you've got some great stuff up on there, some classic videos that you don't see many people capturing that sort of stuff, me included. I look at some of your videos, I'm thinking, my God, some of the spots you've been into and the animals you get to see and the places you get to experience, pretty full on, mate.
Yeah, it is pretty full on, but it sort of just comes with the lifestyle now. I
Yeah.
took it for granted for many years that this was just normal life. I've been hunting from as long as I can remember.
And,
So was my dad, so was my grandfather.
well, none of us seen this really coming. We never thought this was going to expect us, as in this coronavirus. So, basically, before this sort of happened, what do you sort of offer to someone that wants to get into Samba hunting? What can you offer to local people and international people and whatever?
Most of my work is based around education. I do a bit of guided hunting, but it's nearly all educational. It's sort of 2, 3, 4 days. Training them in everything from sort of being able to find and understand deer right through to shooting training and butchering courses as well. So everything that's sort of around that you need to know to be able to go from having no idea how to hunt a deer to knowing how to hunt it, shoot it, find it, cut it up, butcher it, the whole lot. I cover it all.
So you can actually do day. Like, can people just come up for a day? Well, let's look at the situation at the moment then, for argument's sake. Obviously, you've sort of it's been out of your control, but what can you offer at the moment, sort of thing, like to people?
Yeah, at the moment I've had to sort of modify it slightly because my base sort of course was always 2 days. So I've had to do 1-day educations and some sort of 1-day guided hunting. I also do these running solo hunts that I call them, which is basically sort of a drop-up pick-up service, which I put you in a spot with my local knowledge, go, this is how you hunt it, this is where you need to go. Hunt from here, I might put you in the top so you can hunt down, I'll pick you up at the bottom in the afternoon, or maybe at lunchtime, depending on the size of the area. Put you in by car, hunt down there, I'll come around the afternoon, pick you up by boat down the bottom of the lake. Like it just opens up people, mainly interstaters and people that just don't travel that much. They don't have a home area, somewhere they get to hunt regularly. They're going in blind. At least I'm putting them in with information and going, no one's been there now. This is where the deer like to be, how they like to hunt in this area, and off you go.
Well, you can't beat local knowledge, mate. And just for those that don't know, look, sort of what areas do you offer? It's obviously primarily Victoria, and you don't mind sort of elaborating on what sort of locations, or is that?
Yeah, I'm based in Eildon, so
Yeah.
everything's sort of within about an hour travel of Eildon. I do some of sort of the Mansfield, Jamison, I do back out sort of in the Black Range, back out towards Yea. I do have some of the Strathbogies. I got to keep moving around because you're out. I'm out there sort of 5 to 7 days a week. You can't keep going to the same spot. You got to keep moving to keep it all happening. Keep the deer not used to your presence the whole time, and yeah, keep going to new spots because everyone else is out there too.
No, well, that's the thing, and as we all know, we're pretty lucky in Victoria to have all this free access in normal times. So realistically, you're sort of, for someone even coming from interstate from the airport, you're sort of within 2 hours of Melbourne, basically, aren't you? Probably less if you want to hotfoot it, sort of thing. But
yeah, that.
And so we were talking before, like at the moment, obviously for a couple of reasons, you can't offer accommodation. But normally that would be the scenario that what's like as far as people wanting to come in groups. Do you have a limit for people that can come? Like,
yeah, I do up to groups of 4. Mainly, I do 1s and 2s. They can personalise, especially when you're trying to learn it. The teachers, I like to teach people how to hunt the way that works for them. I don't have some secret method and this is follow these steps and this is the instructions. Everybody moves differently. Everybody's got different sets of patience. Their eyes work differently. They're going to be out. Some people sit in glass. Some people can't sit still, want to walk them up. Other people got the patience to want to go in and wait for the deer to come to them. Show them how to do it and then find what seems to work for that person and then show them how to understand the deer so they can make their method work better.
No, that's a good point because it is, as sort of in your position, it's sort of, you've got a very short window of opportunity to gauge that person's knowledge and experience and then you've got to work with it as well. And not only that, their fitness level as well, I suppose, too, so that comes in.
I've had him from 7-year-old, booked me with his dad, right through to a guy that was 82, decided he'd never shot a deer and wanted to learn, but also try and shoot one.
No, well, I think that's the key too. Like a lot of people get put off. They think everyone's got to be this man mountain to go in deer hunting and whatever. And of course, the stronger you are, the fitter you are, it's going to help. But there's plenty of locations that you can sort of hunt accordingly. You don't have to climb the biggest mountain. You can sort of walk up rivers or you can walk the hilltops or whatever. So for people that want to, at the moment, like you've obviously probably had to, like your group bookings and that, what's happened to them? Have they had to be just put back on hold for the time being, or?
Yeah, at the time being, I've put most of them on hold. I got sort of roughly work on about 40% interstate people. Yeah. They're total. Some of them have had to pull out completely because they can't, or they pulled out, postponed to next year. But most of them are just on hold. And all my new incoming ones that want more than a single day stuff are going on a big waiting list. And as soon as I can reshuffle, once I know what I'm allowed to do, I'll reshuffle everyone that's previously booked in the new locations, if I can. And then everything that's left, I'll open up to the waiting list and try and fit them all in. But there's only so many days that I can actually be out there.
Yeah, so sort of at the moment, so you've got a few opportunities for those people that sort of just have got a midweek or a day off or whatever. How much notice do they sort of need to give you to sort of maybe book a hunt? Are we talking days or weeks or?
Generally, I'm about 3 months in advance booked.
Yeah, at the moment?
At the moment, yeah, probably similar.
Yeah?
Because I've had to put a bit of a hold on. I don't have much until sort of late July, August.
Okay, so there's no one-day hunts or anything that people can...
At the moment I have, because I've done one-day hunts. I've got some coming up that I can do in the next couple of weeks until they open me back up, because I've had to shuffle all my customers to that. But yeah, the next few weeks I've got one days available.
Yeah, I may not have mentioned it before too, but in the video description here, there's all the links to Paul's, both his YouTube channel and his website, which will have all the details on there as well. But we'll put it this way, mate. It's a great service you offer. And I've listened to what you do too at a lot of these expos, and just to yourself and blokes like Rob and all the guys that get up and do the presentations, just a big thank you from me, and I'm sure everyone else does too, because the information that you pass on is invaluable, and I think it just saves a lot of people. Put it this way, you can read all the books you want and they're great, but you can't beat listening to someone with first-hand knowledge. And And I've heard you've come down to the ADA before, you've been at all the shows. I just think, there's not a price you can put on that. So for anyone that sees Paul around, I can guarantee you, don't hold back. Go up and see him. Go up and ask him his questions. Better you'd ask him than me, because he knows a lot more. Anyway, mate, I'm gonna jump on in a minute. We're going to talk about this new secret weapon you're testing, but we'll hold back on that one a little bit, because I think this is quite interesting, and you can tell us a little bit more about that in a minute. But I'm going to look at some of the questions that have come up, because I make the mistake of always letting these pile up and getting on top of them. So if I miss anyone's questions tonight, forgive me, because I don't know how many are up there, and it's hard when I scroll down. They all of a sudden pop up more and more, so I've got no indication of how many are here. But first off, I've got to say, Gordo is probably 6 beers down now. He's been on there for 88 minutes waiting, and he's got a question. He says, "Hi, Steve and Paul. Setting up an early question, yes, to get to a spot for a sit and wait for 30 minutes before sunrise legal hunt. How much earlier do you get there?" Far away, mate.
Ideally, I like to be in the spot an hour before I think the deer are going to be there. So you can get it in the dark. If you're prepared to walk in the dark, you get away with half an hour, but that's the minimum. So if you think the deer are coming through at 6 in the morning, you must be there by 5:30. I'd rather you're there at 5, being that everything you disturb, you change, putting a person into the bush, into the forest, changes the whole atmosphere.
Yeah.
And the deer live there. So it's basically like us in this world now with this corona. You drive out the streets when we're in lockdown and you think, this just feels weird.
You go, who's that?
There's no cars, there's no people, everything's odd. And it's just the feeling you get. And that's the deer have all the time. So if you go in there, disturb birds, disturb kangaroos, wallabies, all the other animals, the deer pick up on it and go, something doesn't feel right. And they change their behavior.
Yeah.
If you're an hour in front, everything's forgotten about you. Yeah. You're nice and quiet. Only things that are noticing are things that can smell you now. And as long as your scent's not going in the direction of the deer or anything else that you want them coming towards you, they should just go about their behaviour. And I've sat there with customers and had deer walk up to like 3 metres of us.
Well, that's a key to it too, is probably knowing the ground you're going to go into helps as well. Like if you know that those deer are going to be down in that gully or up on that ridge, you've got to plan your attack as well. It's not just about the time you're going, it's about the way you go in there. Obviously the wind's going to come into it. You mean whether you got big mobs of roos and so on and so forth, so look, the earlier the better, the slower the better, I've found. And and I've also always found too is don't be afraid to change your plans halfway through. Don't think, I want to get to there, because sometimes something might happen and you just got to basically alter it as you go. That's in my experience anyway.
You have to always be flexible.
All right, there's a few guys on here saying g'day. Thanks, guys. I'm gonna now. Hold on, where we got here now? Straight up. Let's see. G'day, Doit Bags up. G'day, boys. Great that everyone can get out for a shoot, albeit a day trip, but still better than nothing. Yes, very true. What do we got here? Right. Luke Goss, early question. Could you please spend some time explaining the effects of thermals related to hunting? Thanks, love your work, both of you. Righto, mate, you're away.
All right. Well, the simplest sort of way to sort of start with it is the thermals will carry your scent. And they carry your scent a long way. Like I've tested Samba can pick my scent up, and the furthest I've managed to correctly get it and do it more than once is at 1,685 metres. So over 1.5 kilometres, they're noticing my smell on thermal and running away. And I've tested enough times to know that that's exactly what they're doing. And what it is that just that light breeze with the thermal air movement will actually carry it and drift it along. When you think about wind, it's a lot of air and it dilutes your scent. Just a nice breeze carries it rather than diluting it. So I was thinking about where you're moving. So it's taking your scent in front of you, behind you, above you, below you, making sure that's traveling in a direction you're hoping the deer are not in. But it's the basic way it works is thermals work with air temperature. So over morning, generally they're falling until the sun warms the ground up, and where the sun starts to warm up, they thermals will rise. But it's only on the sunny spots, the shady spots still will be falling. So an east-facing gully, northeast-facing gully, will be having thermals rising earlier than, say, a west gully. So you could hunt on a different side of the hill and hunt up a gully in the morning, but the thermals are dropping in your face for 2 hours. You try that on the east face, and the thermals might turn around and go behind you within the first 20 minutes of the sun coming up. So they're going to carry a scent. And because they do that, what they will do is they will carry it up an east face, and because this west face is shadowed, they will actually go over and down the west face. So you can actually put your scent in 2 gullies at the same time and not even realise it. A lot of people do that. They'll hunt this face in the morning, and they go, I'm going to hunt that gully in the afternoon. And because it's like that, and your scent's been dragged over and down, that whole gully smell you in the morning, and they've all gone to lockdown mode as well. That's what happens with the scent. It's like Corona to them. They get on a lockdown when they smell it.
Well, have you also, look, I always, obviously, exactly what you've said, but do you find too, like, obviously, rain is your friend, and obviously, if wind is constant, it's your friend as well, and it can often take those thermals to a degree out of the equation. Well, that's what I've found anyway, but you still got to think like you think, you know, what you've said. So, but
I really like the thermals.
Yeah.
Deer like them.
Yeah, exactly.
Deer will walk their whole way home with a thermal in their face.
Yeah.
Like if you think about a deer feeding in the gullies, down the river flats, down the bottoms, in the morning, the thermals drop. As soon as the sunlight drops, they're dropping. So the thermals are dropping for 12 hours. They're going down from 5 o'clock in the afternoon all the way through until 7 o'clock the next day when the sun comes up. So they're just dropping down. So he can be down there bottom feeding, make his way up along, making his way up a valley, up a gully system, thinking and smelling and what's in front of him. So they're happy. They've got this radar going that they know nothing is in front of him for the next kilometre. They are happy and content, work their way up. By the time they make it to bed, by then normally the sun's starting to come up and it's happening. Then the thermals start to rise. So now the thermals are dragging the air from where they just come from, dragging it to them. So now they sit in their bed happy knowing that if you follow their footprints and try to walk them up, your scent's getting carried up in front of you and they smell you following them. And so they use their nose constantly to keep them alive.
And do you find the effect of thermals changes during the periods of year, like the warmer months is worse than the cooler months, or vice versa? Or
the cooler months carry your breeze a lot further. The warmer months warms up, and then it takes it above ground level, so the scent doesn't quite work as well. Yeah, it actually lifts your scent off the ground, and they can't smell it.
No, mate, is spot on. Some good advice there. All right, I don't know what we got here. All right, Jamie Sullivan. Hi, Robbo and Paul. This is a question for both of you. What's the best advice you could give to a Samba hunter, new or experienced? Well, I'm going to go first because I'm going to say learn patience. That's the first thing. That's the only advice. You've got to have patience.
Yep, definitely. Yes, going slow. Looking a lot more than you're actually moving. And don't look for anything in particular. I get people all the time, what are you looking for? I'm not looking for anything in particular. I'm identifying everything's in front of me. That's a slight difference in the way you say it, but if I'm looking at everything and assuming any part of it could be a deer, I'm going to find the deer. If I'm assuming that it's all bushes, logs, rocks, trees, and I've got to find the one odd thing, it's harder. So I'm assuming they're all something until I identify them. So I'm going to look at every rock, tree, stump that has a different look to it until one of them's a deer. And I find a lot more deer that way. I just assume that every dark shape could be a deer and identify it before I move. If I move and think, oh, that might have been a deer, when you think about it logically, you've found stuff that might be deer and you're leaving them to go and look for deer. It makes no logical sense. So identify what it is first before you track on. Before you even move your binoculars or walk, identify everything you can, and every step you take gives you something else you couldn't see. And
isn't it amazing, like how, I guarantee you've seen this all the time, but how long can a deer hold its foot in one position, half off the ground or whatever? I've seen them do it for sort of 20 minutes where it's been a standoff and they're just motionless, but they'll have their foot halfway up in the air. So
I got a large hind did it for 38 minutes on camera.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So you can have a Mexican standoff quite often, and realistically, you've got to be prepared for that. And it'll be that time that you've hunted well all morning. You've gone slow, you've glassed everywhere, and then you just see, oh, I've got a little bit of a clearing. I'll just take those 5 steps. And all of a sudden you'll just get honked and it's all over. And all your hard work, I won't say it's gone to waste, but it's sort of a bit of a slap around the back of the head, really. Yes. But yeah, it's part of the learning curve, though, isn't it, mate? You know.
And they're very good at doing that to you.
All right, Adam Prichter. Hello, Robbo. Question for you and Boags. How long do you believe it will be before Samba repopulate bushfire-affected areas? I don't know. Well, I know there's a lot of grass coming through.
Already.
Yeah.
They're already moving back in. As soon as the food pops up, they start to filter back in. If there's little and normally with nearly every fire, there's isolated pockets of unburnt stuff, just a little bit of scrub to hide, and they start pushing into them. Yeah. And then the population will start to come back better. Because they work on the way they breed. The cycle of breeding is phenomenal in them. That's why they can do so well. They basically become of age at 10 months and they can breed every 9 months. Conditions allow. So basically, what restricts them from breeding more than anything is the condition that the hind's in. So if she travels through pregnancy well, and then lactates feeds her fawn well, and she's still in really good nick, she can within a month, 6 weeks of it being born, she's pregnant again. So when that bushfire feed comes back, it becomes an abundance of food. Yeah. They actually breed at a faster rate, and they overpopulate an area and move and take off really quickly.
Yeah, I was just talking about this on a previous one where I'd been up in the sort of the northeast of the state where it had been fire affected. And what we've got to remember too, when we say fire affected, some areas can be literally incinerated, might take a few years to come back. Other areas, it's just sort of a ground burn and the tops of the trees still stable. You still got a lot of cover. But I noticed straight up that most of the roos that were breeding already had twins, and this was around sort of Easter time or before we got locked down. And the animals know, they know exactly what's happening, and they know there's good feed going to come through. And like you said, they start breeding and going for it basically.
The upside, you get some really big heads come out all the time after the fires. Yeah. Next year, more than this year, you'll see a lot of good quality stags coming out of those affected areas.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting times, and I know everyone's chafing at the bit to get out, and as soon as we can actually get up the bush and sort of stay up the bush, it'll be even better. But we're just going to take what we've got at the moment, and
I don't live 10 minutes from the deer like I
do. Exactly. All right. Witty pun. Hi, Robbo. I shoot 308. I bought some 168 grain TTSX for Samba and camel. I can't help you on the camels, but forums tell me I should go lighter for speed with those pills. What do you actually shoot? What's your main rifle that you like? What caliber, Paul?
3006, my main one.
So the old 3006, 180 grain or thereabouts?
Yep, 180 grain. I like 180 grains when I'm stalking, 220s when I'm hound hunting.
Yeah.
And then I've dropped back sometimes to 130s to shoot stuff at 300.
Yeah. No, well, look, I've shot the 308 quite a bit on Samba over the years, and yeah, I think I've said it before, but the 308 in my experience tends to shoot the 150 grain and lower better. The 3006 is definitely better for the 180s and higher. The TDSX, I've had mixed sort of results with them, but more the 150 grain. But I've had better luck with the 150s than the 308. It just tends to give it a little bit more velocity and gets the bullet working a bit better. But it's like anything, mate, shot placement. And I'm sure Paul will say the same. You can have the biggest caliber, you put it in the wrong spot, the deer's just going to keep running. And like, obviously too, when the hounds are on it, it's a completely different scenario to when an animal's undisturbed and you put the shot in it. Once it's pumped, it's going to take a bit of stopping.
But yeah, I got a 308 and I 150s.
Yeah,
they work really, really well out of it. I like that.
Just factory, or do you hand load, mate?
No.
Haven't got time for that? Do you got too busy?
If I've got spare time to sit there and hand load, I can't find more deer to play with.
So, what's your preferred factory ammo in the 308? Or you haven't got one?
No, I have. I like the Hornadies and I like the Core Locks. They're Remington Core Locks.
The old Core Locks, hard to beat, aren't they?
They are. They've just been good. Gone downhill a little bit. The last couple of packets I've had a couple of issues with, but
have you?
Might just be a bad batch. Yeah, just some not going off. But you get a bad batch from time to time. Just a couple in one of the boxes.
Yeah, what actually some like just primer's got a dent and it's just not going off.
Yep.
Bolt action rifle.
Yeah.
I'd pull your bolt apart. That's my advice.
I even took them out because I got a single shot 308 and put them in the one, and it's a hammer. It's a Rossi with a hammer. And
same thing.
Just hit the pin, and yeah, big dents in them, just not going off.
Oh, mate. Recoil. Sounds like a recoil. But the core locks in general, one, they're readily available, and two, they just seem to get the job done. But
they do. But I like a bonded. Anything that's a bonded projectile.
Yeah.
That holds the weight retention. That's what Samba need. They're a strong animal. They need the maximum damage. They die from hemorrhaging. They don't suffer hydraulic shock like a lot of other animals. People want to hit them hard and fast, and they absorb it and run away. I've shot them with dozens of different calibers and watched them shoot with even more. And you can shoot them with whatever you want, and they'll run away from them. They don't actually suffer that hydraulic shock. That impact doesn't kill them. Yet actually the trauma and the damage is what. So a bonded bullet holds together and does a lot of damage on its way through. Will kill them faster.
Yeah, no, it's good, mate. Like I said, the 06 is hard to beat, and your combination you're using, you've got your choices, and obviously you know what you're doing. So I think there's in itself the 180 to 220s are going to get the job done.
Yeah, I just keep looking.
All right, who we got here now? Matt Cato. If I take my boat to Lake Eildon and go hunting, what's the go with having guns and ammo on the boat? Well, I know nothing about that, to be honest with you. I've never done it. So are you up with that, Bogey? Look.
Yeah, it's much the same as travelling in a car. They've got to be separated and not easily accessible. Like I've done it plenty. I've hunted it out of a tinny lots. So just put it in a gun being pulled up. If it's in a gun bag, zipped up properly, but your bullets are stashed away in a little lockable box, like I just use a little tool box or a tackle box with a lock on it, they're fine. And a lot of people don't even realise you can drive into Jerusalem Creek, the national park, and launch your boat there. Like it's actually legal to take it on the road from in all the way, as long as you don't vary from the road, because the road's owned by Gold Murray Water, and the access to that boat ramp, you're allowed to take a firearm into there just to the boat ramp, put it in your boat, and out you go.
Yeah, well, and that's probably the closest access to sort of Haukwa Big River Arm as well from there, isn't it? Via boat.
The easy sort of access, yeah.
All right. Excuse me, guys. A lot of people are saying g'day and whatever, and g'day to everyone. I'm sure Paul's the same, but we're concentrating the questions because they have had a habit of getting away from me. So, Laurie's here, Laurie Rees. Good evening, Steve and Paul. Question for Paul. You're on, buddy. What results have you had with your deer caller? Oh, look out. He's onto it, mate. Well, this was going to be our hot topic. Yes. Yeah, what deer caller, if successful, which has been the best, high pitch or low pitch bleats? Well, we might as well talk about it, mate. You're testing this new caller out, and I believe you're the Australian agent for it. So you want to give us a little bit of a rundown and maybe give us a look at what this thing looks like?
Yeah, no, I've been testing it and playing with it for a little while now, and so far, very happy. As for the pitch, I'm still working out which ones work better. It's not too high pitch, and it's not sort of too low. It's sort of a mid-range sound that seemed to work the best on it. I had it go a bit high pitch when I had a large hind in front of me 2 weeks ago, and I'm trying to play with her, and I made it a bit higher pitched than I wanted, and then 7 other deer ran out of the gully. She stood and held her ground staring at me, but the rest of them just scattered. So I don't know exactly what I'd done wrong there. But then same afternoon, or actually same gully, when they were leaving the last one, I changed it to a different pitch, and I got the stag to turn around and come back in and look at me. And then that evening, I wish I was a bit more on the go with the camera and quite ready. I wasn't quite ready for it. I called an actual stag into 8 meters of me. I stepped around the tree, messing around calling, seen him coming across, thought, I'll get ready. Got the gun, I thought I'll get the camera. I put the camera sort of ready to film. When I turned around, he's standing there 8 meters from me. So I just shot him and didn't bother filming him.
Yeah, we've got a lure. You just the internet kicked out a little bit there. I think. You're still there, mate. You hear me all right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got you now. It might have just dropped.
Yeah, back, are we?
Yeah, we're back. It's probably just on my end, mate. But I've got to stop worrying about it. So what's it called? Flex. Hold it back. It's out of focus a bit. So Flex Mark is it what it's called?
Flex Mark Samba call.
Okay, and what do you reckon it's sort of designed to simulate? Like
Well,
a
they
high.
all make this sound. No, it's a different pitch squeal. I've been using predator calls in my own mouth to make sounds similar
Yeah,
to it for years. It would have been it was at least 20 years ago. I watched a large hind standing staring at me in a bracken and all in snow,
yeah,
and it was great. And I didn't have the camera with me at the time, but I was watching her, and I could hear this unusual sound, this little bleating kind of sound. And I thought, didn't pay a lot of attention to it. I thought it was just a bird, and it's coming out of the blackberries. And then Mum made the same sound, and a little fawn come rocking out past me, ran straight over and stood on Mum's legs, and then I went, oh. From that moment, I started to pay more attention. I've been in wallows. I've had stags fighting and making a very similar, like a pitchy, sort of funny, unusual sound that I didn't pick. Rooster make a very similar sound too.
Well, you know what people are going to do? They're going to ask in a minute, can you make this sound? But we'll go on a little bit further, unless you feel like giving it a crack. But it's up to yourself. But I'm sure I'm actually interested to listen to the sort of note that it can give out. And look, is it a sort of like a bit like a fox whistle or any caller? You can sort of control the pitch, or is it just a one-off sort of?
No, you can control it by biting it. That's what the black rubber's on the top. You can bite it, squeeze it, and then depending on how hard you blow and what you do, changes the pattern.
Well, come on, give us a little bit. Come on.
And remember, it started off as an elk call. That's how the company started. He started with an elk call. They went over to Guam and they tried it on Samba, and they said, can you modify the pitch a bit? And we think it'd work really well. So he modified, made a whole new call with a bit different pitch, and they were having a great time on the success with the Samba. They're a slightly different subspecies, the Guam Samba, but they're having a lot of success with them. Well, and that's rooster do the same. I watched two rooster stags fighting, and that's the exact same noise they're making every time they're fighting. Yeah. And even listen to two Samba fighting, I thought it was mum and a fawn getting worried about the fighting, but now I think it was actually them making the same noise.
Well, put it this way, it can't hurt to have one with you and experiment. It's like anything to do with hunting, whether it's Samba hunting, fox whistling, or whatever. It's all experimenting, and like you said, you listen, you learn, and you sort of educate yourself.
Well, for years I've used a call, like a fox call and stuff, and a predator call, to make them stop. Like they want to sneak off from you. You wait till they're about to get in a nice patch to shoot them, blow, and they pull up and turn sideways to check you out. And that normally gives you the good shot. But with this one, I've managed to get them to come back to me and even come up to me. So it's getting the right pitch. But it sounds like a mum and a fawn communication, but a stag in the right mode, I'm sure he'll want to come fight me with this. I'll wait to rut later this year. I'm sure I'll be able to get some stags come over and want to have a bit of a go at me.
Oh, well, you've got a little bit of medicine waiting for them. So.
Yes.
All right, what we got here? I'll be up for one of these, mate. I'll be hitting you up for one of these when we go. I reckon. Look, I love all my callers. I've got an array of them for predators, dogs, foxes, and whatever. And it's always great to sort of beat an animal at their own game, and sort of that's what I like about predator hunting. Not that a Samba would be what we class as a predator, but again, they're very obviously one of our most elusive game animals. So. If you can sort of at least get them to stop for a couple of seconds to be able to put a shot off, you know.
Well, I did have a hind the other day in full flight leaving. She kind of half sprung me. She was standing, and she was only 20 metres, staring at me, and then went, I'm out of here, and done the two big bounds to leave. Yeah. I called it. She stopped. She turned around and walked back and stood in the same spot and looked at me, and then skirted around me. That I watched, like walked 50 metre circle around me, trying to check out what I was. Yeah. It instantly made her stop the running and come back. Yeah, okay. I was very impressed with that, but I'm not sure it's going to work every time. I need to do a lot more testing before I go, this is going to work consistently, but definitely will do at times.
No, well, that's fair enough. Look, you're being quite honest here. Like I said, at this stage, it's early days. Me personally, I try every caller as well. Like every person can sort of get a different tone out of a lot of these whistles as well, and then you just got to know when to do it. That's just experience. So when are these going to become available for you? Like when yourself? Like when are you going?
Well, hopefully the shipment arrives in sort of the next. I think within the next week or two. It's been ordered, and it's just depending on travel at the moment. Everything's a bit slower, but they tell me like 10 days to post it here, and we'll have to find out.
Have you got any idea what your selling price will be? If you don't know at this stage, that's fine, but I'm just trying to get an idea so people, because they're probably going to ask, you know?
Yeah, no, at this point in time, it looks like I was trying to sort of keep it cheap as I can, but I think they're going to be $40 a call.
That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
That's pretty reasonable, mate. Yeah.
I've
Plus,
tried to
plus
work out-
postage, obviously.
No, I think I'll probably just do free postage. Like, they're not very big. I just free postage, $40 free postage around Australia.
Oh, well, mate, it sounds pretty good. I'm definitely put one aside for me.
Yeah, as soon as they're going up.
All right, let's see what we got here now. Okay, Theo Karanikos. Good evening, gents. Good to see you back on YouTube, Robbo. Yes, it's good to see Bogey up here as well. Question for you, Paul. Prior to taking a client out, do you need to make sure there'll be no other hunters around the area you're hunting?
To a degree, yeah. Yep. I know. I will do. At times, the customers sort of think I'm a little bit nuts. I'll go, we're going to hunt there, but we're just going to drive around and check this track and check that track. And some spots that I know that get a bit more pressure than others, I might do half an hour, 40 minutes recon before it's daylight, just checking the spots that people normally park and walk in from to make sure no one's around. I prefer no one to be around. I've occasionally been caught out and you've bumped into people in there, but normally I know all the little sort of hiding spots, and you notice someone around. You go, oh, we'll leave. We'll go somewhere else.
It's always the most secret spots. You think you've got them to yourself or whatever, the furthest away from it. Next minute you hear this old four-wheel drive bouncing down the road and you think, oh my God, I thought I was the only one that would have gone to the trouble of getting in here. But yeah, it's part of it. But
I get that all the time. People go, you must have a really good spot. I don't have a secret good spot. Yeah. I have nice spots and I have over 100 of them. That's the difference. So I've got 100 spots that I know that I work and have been hunting for the last 20 years. Yeah. And different conditions, different days, different things will happen. I know they're working. And I know areas that work well for me because people hunt it.
Yeah.
Because people do on a weekend, I know that Tuesday the deer are going to be better in there because they've changed their behaviour.
And I'm sure of a lot of it, you know, in those areas, I guarantee you'll probably look at the weather and the wind direction and whatever, and you'll guarantee you'll be sort of saying, well, I know the wind's going to come up this gully, we'll be right to go in this gully on this day. So that's local knowledge, you know.
And that's what everyone I recommend to do, is find an area and make it your own. Yeah. Learn it, understand it inside out, and then you'll have much more success.
And as we said, don't be in a hurry. Look, people have just got to understand, you go for a weekend hunting, you're probably your first day, you're better off just moving in slowly and just sitting back with a glass and waiting and just seeing what's happening. And then, look, the opportunity may not come until the Sunday afternoon before you're going home. But if you just belt through it, you're just going to push the deer away. So that's my experience. And I'm pretty good at doing that, pushing them away.
Yeah, all right. You just won't see them.
Yeah, no, exactly. Or they'll give you a parting little gift. But are you a big reader, Paul? Because I can guarantee you, I'm shocked. I'll read magazines, but I'm not a big reader of books because.
No, not a real big reader.
No, all right. Got a question for Paul. Have you had much to do with Errol Mason's Secrets of Samba books? I haven't, because he's asking are they worth buying. Well, I can't say myself. So
I have all the first three. I've got all of them. He signed them and sent them all to me for helping him out with photos and filling in gaps in knowledge and information when he'd ring me and want to talk about subjects in them and stuff. I helped him sort of do some of that for him, and so I've got them all there. They are, but there's a lot of information in there. Yeah. And I'm not very good at retaining information by reading. No. I'm more visual, or someone talks to me, I can remember it. Reading something, by the time I've read to the end of the paragraph, I forgot the start.
Don't worry.
For me.
I feel your pain, mate, because I'm the same. If someone shows me how to do something and gives me the opportunity to do it straight away, I'm good. But if I have to read it and whatever, and I'm sort of losing interest halfway through it, I might as well not have even started. But that's just myself, and it's probably something I should work on. But look, any book is going to be better than no book as far as I'm concerned, but you don't want to complicate something that can be simple, realistically. That's how I see it. You can overcomplicate the whole thing, and I think that can put a lot of people off. But,
and that's probably the only downside I say about his books is there's a lot of information in them.
Yeah.
Like it can be a little overwhelming. Like you're gonna read it, you have to read it more than once.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be so much to take in. It's going to be, you're going to pull little parts of it and go, I'll try and use that, but you're missing other bits of it. You have to read it a few times to get the bigger picture of some of the stuff in it.
And the key is too, is not to be hard on yourself. Don't think, oh, I made a mistake, I blew that and whatever, and get the shits with it, and say I'm not going back or whatever. That's part of deer hunting. You're going to make mistakes, and
I get it all the time with people. It's
I
think it's the males are unfortunately more than females. We have an ego, and I get people all the time, and especially like with the deer, and then even when I do my shooting courses, and they'll shoot, and they're like, I think my gun's not working right, and I'm like, I don't want to like burst your bubble. Can I have a go? And then I pick it up and get an inch group, and I'm like, no, it's you flinching, it's you something. And then they feel bad, but I've shot tens of thousands of rounds out of 30-06s and stuff since I can walk nearly. Like I got a 30-06 and started shooting them from the age of 12 years old, and we'd shoot boxes of bullets because Dad was paying for it. So we'd shoot a box or two every weekend growing up as kids. Back when you could buy them at $10 a box, and Dad would buy us more bullets, and we'd shoot them every weekend. And we got pretty good at it.
But you can't beat trigger time. It's as simple as that. And like you do your sort of your field rifle range testing. Can you just talk us through a little bit what you sort of offer there? I've seen you've got the silhouette target sort of out in the bush, and what sort of distances do you sort of set them up, and sort of how do you go through with and sort of setting people up for it? Is it something they just walk up and all of a sudden, look, there's a deer, shoot it? Or
no, it's basically a full hunt simulation. So I have them set up first, and we basically, depending on the weather, the wind, we'll pick a spot that's right, put the table out, the bench out, and sit them there, and I'll put the target out at 100 meters and go, yep, make sure your gun's shooting right, because that takes away one excuse for when we miss later. The gun's accurate, so then you can't blame the gun. Then I tend to put a handful of balloons up in about a 6-inch diameter on the little stands, so they little plastic stands. And I go, once you've done that, get off the bench, use the logs, the trees that are here. Here's a set of shooting sticks. Pop the balloons for me. So just pop the balloons. It don't matter where you hit the balloon. As long as it pops, that's a kill. While they're doing that, I go and make sure the targets are set up. And then I take the person and we walk through. It's about a 3-kilometer walk. And basically, I'm there to just kind of help guide them in the right direction, but it's all them. So you're going to walk as fast as you want. You're going to look, and their idea is they're going to find the target, they've got to identify it, then decide how would you shoot it. So is it stuck in the open, or I can only see its head and I'm stuck in the open, or you might go, oh, that's a deer, I can see it. I'm like, I want to walk over, rest on that log. I'm like, would you think a live deer would let us cross that clearing? Like, nah, well then you're stuck here. The worst thing you can do is miss, and who cares? Have a shot. Take a freehand shot. We can shoot them anything from 30 meters, some of the targets at, add to 300 meters, and it depends on where they can find them and make decisions. So I get them into all the realistic field positions. Resting on trees, rocks, logs, kneeling down, standing up.
And you're relying on them coming with their firearm pre-sighted in, and you've got to put a bit of faith in that client that says, well, your rifle is sighted in or whatever.
Yeah, well, if they don't, we sight it in. I've had some that come. I've had people come with brand new rifles, and we spend the morning getting that sighted in, shooting well, and then go and do the course. I've had other interstaters that use my rifle to do it. So you've got to get them used to using my rifle. I had a husband and wife come last year, and neither of them had shot anything better than a 22 Magnum, I think. So I had to spend the day teaching him how to shoot an actual centerfire rifle and going through that, and then move on to the targets. So we accommodate to sort of suit everyone's needs.
Now that in itself, I find a lot of people the whole idea of sighting the rifle and sighting it correctly can be a bit overwhelming again for people that are just starting out. And to have someone like yourself basically sit them down and basically stand back and look at them and say independently, say, look, you might be holding the rifle incorrectly or whatever. It's good to have someone independent, and not only that, when they start hitting the target, you usually find that their confidence builds, and then it's a big part. Hunting is a big part of sort of being confident and not letting the things that sort of go wrong get you down. Otherwise you just won't enjoy the whole experience. But so when you've gone through your 3K walk, have you ever had any deer happen to just wander across your targets?
Yep. Shot targets and deer jumped up behind them, ran away. I've had customers with me going, there's one, I've just one here, and they're like, oh, and there's two of them, so they're having a bit of a competition who gets to go first. Well, you go, I'm like, shh, no, this one's a real one. Be quiet.
I didn't put that deer. I didn't put that one over there. Yeah.
We've never shot one on it, but we've seen probably a dozen or 20 deer while doing the course.
Oh, that's gold. That's gold. But look, these are the things that you really can't put a price on for people that are sort of starting out. I've seen so many people sort of get so frustrated and fire boxes and boxes of bullets, and they still don't get their rifle where it should be. And to have someone sort of give them a bit of a helping hand is, again, really, it's a bonus. So
it's mindset for most of them.
Yeah, exactly.
And starting them off right, I start all the new ones that I can off that are pretty green to it. I haven't shot much of their gun. Shooting it standing up. Don't even care if you hit a meter square target that's over there that my target's attached to. Just take the first shot standing. So all you notice is the gun pushes you and it doesn't hurt you. Bench positions can be, and when you lean into a bench and the gun rides up on your collarbone, people get hurt and then they're scared and flinch of their own gun constantly. And you watch them flinch when they're shooting because they're fearful it's going to hurt them. If you get their head around not that it ain't going to hurt you, it's just going to give you a push. Like we were giving them probably the first time I ever shot a 36, I was 10 years old. Like Dad could have a shot that's going to scare you, and you kind of Dad held you and made it. We could barely hold on to the gun, and he would go and took the fear out of it. Like it's just a gun. Like the other end, the dangerous end, holding it, getting it in, not being. And when they get fearful, they tend to hold it off and be gentle with it. And you've got to hold on to it firm, grip into it, pull it into yourself, so it then just wants to push you, not whack you. It's like a punch. A punch can't hurt you if it's only this far, but when you've got room to swing, it hurts.
Yeah, and the thing is, most people, like when they're sighting their rifles, whether they're 38.6, 300 Win Mag, whatever, are going to say, well, at the end of the day, my shoulder's sore or whatever. But when you're out hunting deer and you see that one deer and you've shot, the last thing you'll be even thinking about, you won't even felt what's happened. It won't matter what caliber you're using, unless you've got yourself in an awkward position and you've scoped yourself or something. But most cases, it's the last thing that you'll even think about.
That is very cool on live animals.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Gold Lad, have the long arm firearm safety courses started back up yet? I'm not sure what he means.
To be able to go do your firearm license.
Yeah.
I don't know, actually.
No, one of the other boys here has just said contact your district firearms officer. I think that's pretty good advice there, because a lot of things, I know permits to acquire and all that, I believe, have started to be processed again. So I'm not 100%, so good advice there. Get onto your DFO. All right, Scott Earnshaw, planning first trip to Vic High Country, October, November, pending allowed to travel to Vic. What's the do's and don'ts? We'll keep it to a couple, mate, because we could go on quite a bit here. If you want to fire away first.
We could. That time of year, high. Get up the tops. That's when everything's melting. If you get up in that, you're going to get the travel and going to get in there properly. That's when I love to hit the high country. When that snow melt, that fresh growth, the deer love it. They come moving into it. Stags are normally back end of rut, and all they're doing is looking to then put post-rut feed back on, so they're back into ignoring everybody else on the planet and just worrying about eating. Makes them really vulnerable, chasing good critters. That's when you find big stags doing what appears to be silly.
But it depends on the year too, to a degree though, too, doesn't it? Like whether we've had a real late snowfall and not a lot of heat in the ground. Like a couple of years ago, we went in up about 1400 and the grass hadn't come through, but sort of last year, it was coming through thick, and especially it was coming through around some of the burnt areas, and the deer were there. So it's the old saying, isn't it, really? Find the feed, you're going to find the deer. So
it's very weather dependent.
Yeah. Righto. We've got a few moving through here now, mate. I just don't want to miss too many. Gaming goats. Is there certain spots where they drop their antlers? Or I know Az's got it. Az's.
Wherever they fall, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's around wallows and scrapes.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I haven't found and any ones that I know that are actually really good at it, and I've had grown up with people that have found lots and lots of them, and it's basically doing the miles. And they only bring them 3 places: the feeding areas, the bedding areas, are in between.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really narrow anything down for you, but that's roughly where they'll be.
I reckon Azza was onto it. He reckons they were all around. He was finding them all around the preaching tree. He was always find them not far from a preaching tree when we were up, when the boys cleaned up on it. I never found any, Paul. I always look ahead. They were looking down the ground. They had a pack full of casties, but and some fair sized ones. But yeah, they went into full casty mode. Yeah, and look, they'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure, I remember Azza saying to me, most of the ones he found were just in the open, but there was a preaching tree not far away. So I don't know whether there's anything in it, but
yeah, that's preaching trees, wallows, signpost trees, anywhere that brings their attention to them.
Yeah,
tends to get them. Backs of farmland is one guy, he found lots, but it was just the staging area, like on the backs of the farm, the berries and the thick bush, where the deer were coming down every afternoon waiting to then go and feed on the crops. He found lots there, but that's because the deer spent a lot of time just waiting to walk out.
Yeah, no, very true, mate. And that's the thing with Samba. There's no set rules. Every time you think you got them worked out, they'll give you a slap around the back of the head and say,
Okay.
listen, brother, you're not that
Every
good.
question I answer, I get 3 more questions.
Yeah. Okay, Zach Barthelson. Hey, Robbo and Paul. Love both the channels. Do either of you use scent control measures, i.e. tea tree oil, etc., or just rely on wind itself? Just the wind for me. I don't use anything.
I've tried them, and it's more to do with they're big in America because of the style of hunting. So they do work here depending on the style of hunting. If you're going to do some blinds and tree stands and stuff, I will use them. I've even gone to extend and trying gumboots and trying waders to get into a couple of little tree stands and stuff I had in little backs of farms and that. And that worked because it contained my scent. And that's all that it's trying to do, so that the deer would actually pass where I've already previously been and not notice me because my scent wasn't left there. But for general hunting, there's not a lot of need. If you're not doing tree stands and blinds where you can try to control the radius of scent permeating from you, it's more about wherever the breeze and the thermals are taking it, not so much because you're traveling and moving around.
Yeah. No, mate, I think you've covered it pretty well. Like, yeah, definitely when you're not sure of which way that wind's going to go and you're going to be stagnant in one position, yeah, I could see them coming into their own. But me personally, I haven't worried about it. But then again,
I've had a customer complain in the morning because I spilled diesel on my boots filling the car up, and he got a little bit annoyed. Oh, we're not going to see anything. You've killed it. You've got any more boots? Can you change it? When we found about half a dozen deer in the first half an hour, I said, "Are you worried about the diesel anymore?" He went, "Well, I forgot about that." So did the deer. I smell it, the breeze is going that way.
Yeah. All right, now, I'm not sure on this question. Kingsley David. Hi, Rob and Paul. I tend towards guided hunting as I am time poor. Too many of the die-hard stalkers out there say this isn't real deer hunting. Can I ask Paul to comment on this? Well, I personally, obviously Paul's going to answer this, but I can't see. If you're out there in the bush and you're hunting deer, you're hunting deer. Doesn't matter whether, but anyway.
Unless the guide's taking the rifle off you and pulling the trigger for you, you're still doing it. You still have to be there. Like, I've guided lots and lots of people, and I can't do everything all for you. I can't make you quiet. I can't make you see the deer, and I can't shoot the deer for you. You've got to do all that. I'm just sort of guiding you. That's all it is. I'm just a guide. I'm getting you going and acting in the right way. You've still got to see it. You've still got to be able to put the gun. You've still got to shoot it. You've got to do all the bits and pieces. I'm just helping you along. So no, that's fine. That's just people's egos again.
It's no different to a mate that you've hunted with that's got a little bit more experience than you, and he says, "Hold on, we'll hunt together." If your mate beside you that's less experienced shoots a deer, how is that any less of an experience? If anything, that's a big part of hunting for me, is hunting with other friends, sharing the experience. So personally, I just think it's part of it. But if someone's doing it as a job, or someone's just assisting you because they've done it for longer, I can't see any different. And if anything, that's what hunting should be about, just sharing the experience.
Oh, it should be. And like, you break that down to a hound hunter, like I was born and raised doing it. If you shoot the monster number 1 30-inch stag, you get it. It mounts on your wall. It's yours. But the guy that found the marks, you couldn't have shot it without him.
No,
the guy that put the dog in and started the dogs to get it to go to you. The guy that had the unfortunate mishap down the river and turned it and made it run back to you. Like, everyone can be part of it. It's not it has to work. So the person that just pulls the trigger is not always the end of the story, but we're all part of it, and it's all working
Well, you're
together.
all carrying it out.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. That's when, as we say, that's when the work starts.
But someone can't shoot them for you. So
No, exactly.
God's only helping you do what you're doing anyway.
And you can be the best on targets. You can shoot paper all day long, but you start puffing up a hill, be cold, wet, or hot and sweaty, and then all of a sudden you've got an animal looking at you and bearing down. It can take, it can change someone in seconds. So.
That's what the shooting course is about, because people aren't used to shooting in uneven positions. Yes. When your feet are not level, when you're standing uneven and you're sort of slightly off balance, uncomfortable, then having to take the shot, people find that really hard. I've had plenty of customers who had to catch nearly because they put the rifle up to shoot something up the hill while they're standing on the hill, and they nearly fall over because they're used to shooting at level things, standing on level ground. Yep.
No, it's a completely different scenario, and it never happens when you're expecting it. So, well, not very often anyway. Righto, what we got here? Tim Edwards, evening guys. Deer callers for Samba. Thoughts? Well, we've talked a little bit about that, and obviously a bit of a delay here in what people are putting their questions up. So I'm going to skip through it. But yeah, Paul's got one. He's given it a crack, and in the near future he's going to have some up for grabs. So, all right. Richard Smout, g'day boys. What do you think of a 210 grain long range AccuBond projectiles out of a 300 Win mag for Samba? Well, put it this way, mate. I don't know anything about that new projectile, and to be honest with you, right spot, it's going to put them down. But it comes down to distance, where you hit them. Have you had anything to do with these new long range projectiles?
No, I haven't had much to do with the new long range ones, but 300, that's what they're good for. I don't like a 300 Win under 150 metres.
No.
You're going too fast at that distance.
Yeah, it can completely change how the bullet reacts. And look, and what we've got to remember too, if that bullet hits a rib or solid bone compared to going between ribs, it's going to work completely different each time too. So
the biggest skill that people underestimate when they do that stuff is becoming the new trend. And I'm not the greatest, like, to me, shooting something at that long range takes away from hunting for me. I like to get as close as possible. Yeah. That's when I feel the real hunt is.
Yeah.
But it's being able to get there to the spot you shot and find it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of skill in that. Being able to actually you shot something 500-600 meters away, or even further. How do you get to that position on the ground? Like that takes a bit of practice and skill. I know the new technology with your spot and go in your GPSs and your rangefinders helps a lot, but still, they're not always accurate, and you've got to be able to find the animal you've shot.
No, and as you know, mate, and look, I do a bit of the longer range stuff, purely where we've got situations. Often we've done it sort of where the properties that the owners have really had the shits with the deer coming in and whatever, and they're really becoming an issue, and they've got massive amounts of roos and whatever. And look, they're not interested in how you do it. They just want you to sort of get rid of it, and that it does have advantages there, but it's got its place. Ideally, like you said, you can't beat old school hunting. It's as simple as that. And look, technology's all good and great, and it doesn't matter whether it's for navigation or whatever. Just don't rely on one thing, is my experience. So yeah, look, I can't answer those long range AccuBonds. I haven't used them, so I can't say anything. All right, Bradley Moore. I've got a mate that smokes when we hunt, and I tell him it's bad as the smell will give us away. He believes it's okay due to its smoke. How bad is smoking when you're hunting? Well, a lot of my mates that used to hunt used to smoke don't hunt or don't smoke anymore, so it's not an issue for me. What about yourself, Paul?
Yeah, no, never smoked, but grew up with plenty of people that did, and it's not an issue, because if they can smell the cigarette because the breeze is traveling that way, they've already smelled your BO as well. Like, it doesn't matter. Anything that's foreign human smelling is what they're detecting. So the fact that they can smell your cigarette, they're going to be able to smell your breath. They're going to be able to smell any part of your body, any of your BO, any deodorant, your toothpaste, anything you drank. It all doesn't belong there unless everything that comes out of you and that makes a smell smells like gum leaves and eucalyptus and tea tree. They know you're there. They only need the smallest amount to pick you up. It's the same as us. Like, not having a nose as capable as them, you can still be in the city with car exhaust fumes that stink, lots of people walking around with deodorant and BO, and pick the smell of coffee or a hot donut or hot chips. You've identified one individual smell out of hundreds around you, and some that are bad as exhaust fumes. The deer can identify any part that's unusual. Everything that's natural, they used to. They smell it every day, all day. They don't even know they're smelling it. So the foreigner's bit that is a human smell picks up. Doesn't matter what it is related to us, they smell it. So cigarettes only affects your actual being able to walk up and down the hills because you're a bit out of breath. Give it up for that reason.
Well, I've got a question for you, mate. If you, out of there, say there are three senses: there's sight, the hearing, and smell. Yeah, it's going to come to me. Let's have a seniors moment here. Which one would you put as their best weapon? I know what I would say, but we'll put them in from their best to the lowest sort of. Which would you say?
Yeah, it all depends on how you measure it. Their sense of smell is the most reliant one they have. They love it. Like I said, they will travel to and from areas if they can using their thermal breeze. That is their favourite way. Like, that's where it brings people undone, that they go, oh, hunt this spot, and the deer feed, and they walk their way on the gully. You put trail cams down, they go past every day, this sort of time, this is what they like to do. But they will do that repeatedly when the thermals are right. Like, they'll happily travel in daylight with thermal, with the breeze coming in their face. The breeze behind them, and that deer, rather than going at this time of day, it'd rather travel at night time when it feels safer. So their nose is by far the best, but it's the easiest to overcome. Because you've just got to pay attention where your scent is traveling.
Yeah. As
for their eyes are great for movement. Yeah. So putting face veils and hand gloves is a really big bonus. Not enough people hunt with them. That will actually, I reckon, if you put, for people that don't, just changing that factor will increase them 25% better hunting just by getting rid of their face. Because that reflective skin, that stands out in the bush.
Yeah, I use the mustache, Paul. The mustache works for me, mate. It doesn't really work.
the round cheeks, the shiny head, it reflects.
No, you're right. Yeah.
And they catch that, which to our eyes is shiny. To their eyes, they actually see the infrared, the ultraviolet bouncing off you. They pick that up. So you stand out. And you think about it, there's only one other thing that's round and kind of white and light coloured that's in the bush that stands out to them. And they've been trained to pay attention to it their whole life.
Yeah.
And that's mum's backside when her tail goes up. That big reflective butt got their attention from the day they were born. That means mum's alert, get alert. And as soon as they see our face, it instantly makes them alert. So covering that face changes the world.
Yeah, I must admit, I don't do it enough, and it's probably been to my detriment. Yeah, I might have to start. Look, I have for foxes and that, we used to use a face veil when we're whistling just to hide your movement of your hand underneath there, and you can definitely get them in closer with that. I'm not a massive fan of gloves. Maybe, I don't know, that's just a personal thing.
I buy the cheap work gloves, the gardening gloves from like the supermarket.
Yeah.
They're rubbery latex this side, and this side's just stretchy sort of.
Oh, yeah.
And then I trim halfway on my fingers and my thumb, so I'm still dexterous, or if it's a bit warm weather, I trim them all off. It's just that part of my hand I want to get rid of. Basically, if I can cover the palm and the back of my hand, that is it. The fingers are not enough to worry anything.
Well, you're giving away your trade secrets here, mate. This is all right. I'm going to be going out and cutting all my work gloves up now.
Well, they work great, and when they get too damaged, you throw them away. You buy them for $5 and use them until they fall apart. Get rid of them.
All right. Timothy Watson. Look, there's a few questions here. I'm going to skip over them. There's one quickly. Gold Lad, have you spotted other hunters while you're glassing? I have. I'm sure you have, Paul. Yeah.
I watched a couple of guys early days actually walking and watching the deer, watching them. I wish I had my camera, because that would have been some great footage. Could have filmed the people and the deer watching them. They walk right past the deer and they didn't even notice.
Timothy Watson. Hi, Paul and Robbo. Love your work. I'm interested in a sow 100 in 308 for general purpose deer. Just wondered how Paul found his sour. Also, for Robbo, what Swarovski Z5 scope would you put on it? So you've obviously got a 100, have you, Paul?
Yeah.
Been happy with it?
Yeah, really happy with it.
Yeah. No, I've heard, look, put it this way, I know a few people now that have sort of been Tikka shooters for quite a while, and they've actually looked at them as a cheaper sort of, well, not cheaper, I think they're about the same price. But basically another alternative. I don't mind the stock design, that sort of snable front end as well. It sort of gives you a good position to get your hand to, a locating position. But you've obviously got one, and you found it being pretty good.
Yeah. Shoots very well. Very happy with it. Love the 5-shot flat magazine in it.
Yeah.
Love that. Love the adjustable trigger. I've lightened the trigger up a little bit. I'm more comfortable. Just a nice trigger on it.
Yeah. So
I got a Tikka as well. And the Tikka, like, the trigger is just that little heavy. It's all right. I'm used to it now. Don't notice it, but I've had, when I give it to customers and that, they're like, "Oh, trigger's a bit not right there."
On the Tikka, I can sort that out for you. That's easy.
It's not a hard thing to sort out.
No. So the 100 is top feed, isn't it? You can top feed it.
But it's drop out mag. 5-shot detachable mag.
But can you still top feed it though if you have to? Yeah, so that's the advantage straight up for me over the Tikka. As much as I love my Tikkas.
The flush mag, which I like, because they kind of balance always there. That's the bit where if you hold them and walk, they balance right on the mag. I don't like it as much.
Yeah.
I like that flush mag.
The second part of his question, what Swarovski Z5 scope will you put on it? On a 308, look, I think people overpower their hunting rifles personally. When I first set up the 7mm, which has obviously got a bit more range on than the 308, the scope that I've got on it now wasn't available at the time, so I put a 3.5 to 18 by 44 on it. I've since replaced that with the Z5, was it the 2.4 to 12 or whatever it is by 50, and that's a far better option, I think, as an all-rounder. Look, realistically, mate, I don't have my scopes wound up much more than probably 6 to 8 power, unless I'm going to take a longer shot and I've got a bit of time, and then 12 power is way more than I need. You'd be the same, Paul. What sort of scopes powers do you run on yours, most of yours?
Yeah, most of them I like that. I got a 1.5 to 12.
Yeah.
I like the low end will pick you up and save you on deer than you will on the top end. You'll find it way more useful to that deer that stands up at 20 meters from you. And you need to be able to find it and not go. I've had customers with me, and it was a really nice stag. Yeah. And he had it, and his was a 4 to 12. Yeah. And he couldn't work out what end he was looking at.
No, mate. Look, I just had this conversation quite often, and I think there's too much influence from target shooting coming into the hunting scene, and more so the deer hunting side of it. And realistically, you cannot put enough emphasis on that lower end. And I was never much for red dot sort of scopes and whatever, but of late I've got a little Ben sort of had it on his black bear, and he sold it to me, the 1 to 5 Carl's Helia, and it's a red dot, and I've got it on a combination gun. I'm looking at putting another one on a 308 in a similar range, and you just can't put that second or so that you gain from acquiring your target quickly. You can't put a price on that.
It just takes the thinking out of it. And not, is that just right, the crosshairs? It's a red dot on a dark animal.
Yeah, and you also notice that you don't notice your movement as much, and you don't hesitate in your shot as much with a wider, lower powered scope. I find that, again, it builds a little bit of confidence. You're not trying to shoot a rabbit in the head. You're trying to hit basically in a small dinner plate or dessert plate sort of targets. I don't think you need to overcomplicate it.
No, lower power will be better, because you will kick yourself the day you go, I'm going to shoot that deer. You take 3 steps and one stands up 20 meters from you. Yep. And you can't find it in your scope because it's too powerful.
Yep.
But the one that's out at 200 meters, you've got all the time in the world to worry about turning up or down, and you won't use it.
Yeah, and the other thing, once you go over 12 power, most of the scopes start to have parallax adjustment on them, and that just adds another complication into it that's not necessarily on a normal deer hunting rifle. And I think it's too easy to get sold this stuff nowadays. So
you're going over shooting chamois and tail? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Shooting the Samba here? No. Yeah. Want that low end.
Zach Roberts, not just fire affected areas, the amount of deer on roads around my area, he's up the northeast of Victoria, is unreal, because no one's been hunting. Grass is booming, human pressure is not there. They are loving it at the moment. I can understand that, Zach. Look out, here's trouble. Dear Diaries, young Jono. G'day, boys. Generally, when I come across Samba, it's no more than 3, sometimes 4, but every now and then I come across big groups of almost 10 or more in the small area. Any input on what they're doing? Well, you know what males and females usually do. But
Yeah, there's that. You will find him at times. If there's a big mature stag there, he draws the attention. He drags the hinds to him. That's what all these rutting, wallowing, preaching, signposting, putting his scent there, and he's putting all these signposts there going, this is me, I am the king, you come to me. And they come to him. And it works. I'll find big stag and he'll have 11 hinds bedded around him. But more often than not, if there's not a big stag involved in it, it's the same reason we gather. Food. We all live in our individual houses. You're at yours, I'm at mine. But you can, most days, with the exception of COVID times, you can find us gathered in large groups, but it's called restaurants. We're there to eat. You put a good food in an area, you'll get deer. I got photos of deer 50 plus together.
Yeah.
Samba, but it's food. That's the sole purpose they're there. They all go home, they spread out, they bed in their own areas. I've got a video of 35 walking past me from food, and then I spend the rest of the day following them, and I don't find them in any more groups than about 3. They're bedded all differently and spread out again.
Yeah, low pressure, good food source, bit of warmth in the winter, bit of sunshine. Yeah, it doesn't take rocket science really in the end. So,
No.
But
I have the herd mentality, which is what's the difference.
Yeah. If you
they
look,
go different directions.
I've
have to follow the leader kind of attitude.
Have you look? I've actually found a few times that fallow and actually Samba actually been together. Actually, not just in the same paddock, but actually just trotting along behind each other. Have you had that?
Yeah. Seen them walking along together. I think the fallow, especially in low density areas of fallow, I think they're so drawn to herd mentality. They attach themselves to another deer wherever they can.
Yeah.
To feel safer. So if there's a Samba around, they'll just go, I'm going to walk around and follow you. And you often find with smaller males, they're trying to then bond because Samba definitely, I've got photos and videos, and Samba definitely get bachelor groups. Like I've got videos of 6, 8 mature stags, like I'm talking all in the mid to high 20s, bachelor together in velvet, eating and feeding together. And I've seen that sort of groups of deer numerous times, similar age males grouped together, 4, 5, 8, up to 10 males, all normally velvet, late velvet, just coming out of velvet, they bachelor up.
I find fallow particularly, like one of my videos last year, I was a mob of goats, and I had to look twice because I'm thinking, oh, it's just another goat, and it was actually a fallow just in with them, and it was part of the herd basically, and I'd seen him with these goats everywhere the goats went, he went. Yep. And I didn't have the heart to shoot him in the end because I just watched him, and I thought for 2 days I could have had a shot at him 3 times over those couple of days, and every now and then you just get caught sort of thinking, I've never seen that before, but yeah. But
we had a local fellow years ago that he obviously escaped from somewhere because we didn't know any other fellow around there, but yeah, he had just adopted a herd of cattle to the point when the farmer would round him up, put him in the race and doing stuff, he'd come stand there on the outside. He wouldn't go in, but he'd come, he'd follow him all the way into with the farmer. Like, this is my group, I can't leave him alone. He'd follow him around. So, he thought he was a cow.
Yeah, we've had red deer in amongst the cows quite often as well. They're pretty good at doing that. It tends to upset the farmers. But, what do we got here? David Ford. David said, "Hey fellas, you guys ever mucked around calling Samba like a form caller?" Again, probably a delay here. Yes, Dave, we have. Well, yes. Bogey's experimenting at the moment. We talked about that a bit earlier, which you've probably already seen now. Okay, Peter Bradford. G'day, PJ. Hi, Robbo and Paul. PJ and Lockie here. Love watching your vids. If you could only hunt Samba 1 month of the year, pick your month. You go first, mate. 1 month. I think I'd know.
Now?
Yeah. I'd probably wait August, I reckon. August, well, maybe, yeah. Well, 1 month is hard, really.
I love November for shooting stags.
Yeah. Up in the high country.
And they're often vulnerable, coming out of rut. They're being silly. They come off. They're post rut, so they're good. They're easy to hunt. But this time of year, you find them being silly because they're velvet stage. They're not silly. They're just chasing food harder.
Yeah.
They get them late stage of velvet, but it's also my favourite time to eat them. You get a velvet spiky, velvet immature stag now, and the amount of fat can be incredible. That stag we shot the other day, last week, that nice stag, I've never had to scrape fat from a cape when I caped it out than I did on that one.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there scraping off fat off his cape. He had fat everywhere on his ribs, and I went skin, fat, meat, ribs.
Some good eating right there. And look,
he was covered in it.
Like, you sound pretty set on your time there, in your area. Did you find that they're sort of in hard velvet in your area pretty much the same time every year? Because a lot of areas we hunt, we've found them both.
I've found them in all year round. I've seen them in velvet every month of the year.
Yeah.
I found them in rut every month of the year.
Yeah.
They can fluctuate, but in general, I reckon probably 3/4 the population kind of follow a pattern. And around here, I reckon it's changed in the last 2-3 years. It's crept back. It's changed about 3 or 4 weeks. They're actually normally most of them by the start of May are starting to strip out.
Yeah.
But I'm still finding plenty that are still well in velvet now.
Yeah.
And even last year was the same as the end of May, before they were actually, a lot of them were starting to really rub out. Like this morning, I filmed one. He'd fully rubbed out. He's well and truly out of velvet. But yeah, the day before I was looking at them, and there was 2 stags, and those still had plenty growing. One was only just forked. Just forked for his inners and outers.
All right, Matthew Warren. Hi, Bogey. I'm interested in upgrading to Swarovski binoculars. I mainly stalk Samba. Would you go 8x56 or 10x42? Cheers, mate.
10x42.
Yeah, pretty much.
My go-to.
Pretty versatile, really.
Yeah, it gives you just enough. Like, because I've been doing this for the last 10 years now, I've had every set of binoculars come and sit next to you and look. And the common thing, 8 power is great, low light, closer range. But once you get out around that 200, I have plenty of people that want me to just go and help them sneak up on a log because they can't quite figure out what it is. It's the right colour, right sort of shape. And then you give them mine and they're like, oh, yeah, no, it's a log.
And
so that 10 power tends to be a bit more versatile. And I still find them at 15 metres with my 10 powers.
Yeah, and it's hard to get one bino that does everything, to be honest with you. But yeah, you're right. Look, eight. Look, I like the little 8x32s when I'm in the tight stuff or whatever. But to be honest with you, I don't think you go wrong with either. I don't know about the 8x56. That's a fair bit of glass. To be honest with you, in the Swarros, the glass is that good. Realistically, the 10x42s are going to be bright enough for most situations.
Yeah.
What do we got here? Andrew B. Has all your shooting affected your hearing? I don't want to lose mine. Well, I can honestly say, I don't know if it's just shooting, but working in the trade, industrial deafness sort of comes into it. But I guarantee you one thing: if you're going to shoot muzzle brakes, make sure you've got hearing protection. That's why I don't use them.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Boag?
Yeah, I think it's some degree, but same. I was in the steel industry for years. That was my trade, so it can be to do with working with steel as well. But yeah, no, it's definitely. I don't think it helps your hearing.
No, and the
protection where you can, and some of the new protection is really good if you want to spend the money.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to, because some of the cheap stuff, it just sort of disorientates you too. It sort of, you get the sounds, you can't tell which way they're coming from. But I think if you're going to get it, look, what price do you put on really on your footwear, your eye protection, and your hearing? Look, really, if you want to look after it, buy the best you can afford. That would be my advice. Get it fitted well as well.
For all your other shooting, where if you're hunting, you normally find one shot. That's not going to be the end of the world.
But what a lot of people don't realise though too is I'll get the earpiece, the moulded earpiece in and whatever. I'm no expert on this, but a lot of the sound gets transferred through the cartilage of the back of your ear. So you can never beat a full muff as far as an ear muff as far as total protection. But the ones in the ear are going to be far better than nothing, that's for sure. Look out. My partner in crime's on, Lee Baragwanath. I have one of those callers. I need all the help I can get. I haven't seen this call. He's been holding out on me. I haven't seen this. I don't know where he's got it from.
Secret now.
I don't know where he's got it from, mate. But he'll show me. He comes out with these things every now and then. I said, when did you have that? Oh, I've had it for ages. So.
Now, you've been able to buy them out of the States for a while, but the shipping is a nightmare and costly.
Oh, okay. No, well, it's good to have someone now bringing them in, and if anyone's going to give them a fair run, I know who it's going to be. It's yourself. So, all right. Scott Earnshaw, what time of year do Samba rut? I heard there's one time like fallow and reds. Righto, mate. That's all yours.
Yeah, same as we just spoke about. I would say a quarter to a third of them rut any given month of the year, and then majority of them will fall to a pattern. Around here, I get an August rut. I can get an August rut, but they can rut twice. I actually shot the nice stag, the German fella shot at the end of this year. He was in rut, and I chased him around in rut 6 weeks earlier. He was blown up, ruddy. He was everywhere. I couldn't get him. He went off the radar, and then he cycled back again. He come back into rut. He was the first time I've ever seen one that's done it, but he was not very far away from where he was, and he looks identical unless he's got another brother, which fingers crossed maybe he does. Maybe it was a different one. I keep finding him. But around here, we get an August sort of September rut. A lot of other pieces get more of September into October. I don't know why sort of the Eildon Jamison sort of area we get that August, but I haven't really found that many other places. But that's just the sort of majority of them. You'll find the younger ones tend to come on first, like most immature males and younger males. They get a little bit more excited quickly. So they will get really active and you think the rut's on, but that's just them making a big show and dance about it. And they're chasing the girls everywhere and the girls are giving them nothing. And then the bigger stag, when he starts, they actually attract to him. The little stags don't even have a part of it. They all go and find him. But around here, it's sort of August, September. But most other places, I think, more September, October.
And just for someone that's coming into deer hunting and never heard of these terminologies and that before, like we use the term the rut. Can you just explain a little bit what your interpretation of it is, mate? Like what people should look for, sort of thing?
Yeah. Well, the rut itself is what happens when the male's the testosterone level change in the male, so he's actually ready to breed. He's more in breeding cycles. The hinds can actually cycle all year round. They can. I think their cycle rate is basically monthly. They can actually cycle. It's more to do with the stags coming into full rut that actually drags the females and involves the females in and gets them excited, and then depending on how they're going, lactating. But the rut itself is to do with the main breeding cycle when most of them want to breed. Samba don't follow like the European style deer, the American deer, the red tail, the white tails over there, or your red deer and your fella deer coming from those northern hemispheres where they get the real difference in season. They're trying to get their breeding to cycle with the weather conditions as best. Being a sort of tropical more animal that's not quite the same where the Samba come from, those Asiatic animals, they can sort of breed all over the place. The seasons are wet and dry season, but you can still sort of not as detrimental, so they tend to spread it out. But most of them will follow that sort of pattern of coming in at around about the right time, and it's always due to being when the baby's born. And they tend to, most of them around here are born around that July, and most of them start to pop out. So they're born there on mum and coming out the sort of towards ready to come out the back end of winter and get on to spring on the good feed and grow. But you will find them born any time of year. The activity is normally the pre-rut, is what everyone gets excited about. I find a lot of people miss the actual main rut. They see the pre-rut when they're wallowing, they're preaching, they're signposting, there's lots of activity going on, and they think that's the rut. That's the start of the rut. It sort of slows down a little bit in the middle because the stags have started to really hone in on their territory and it's not everywhere. And the smaller stags are starting to want to hang around and find the bigger stag and try and steal his girls because the girls are starting to go to him. And then the other thing that people sort of get wrong a bit is they find a good mature stag doing something silly, like standing feeding in the open grassy bit in the middle of the day and you're going, oh, he must have been rut, he was silly. That's post-rut. Because if he's big mature stag and he's rutting, he's chasing girls. He's got them around. His activities involving them. He's not on his own looking to feed. Feed's one of the last things on his mind. He loses all his body conditions because he's concentrating on everything except food.
And you might have already covered this or might have missed it, but just for argument's sake, if conditions are good and whatever, how often can a Samba hide or hind breed per year?
Every 9 months. If the conditions allow it, every 9 months. Gestation's 246 days, give or take, about that. So about just over 8 months is gestation. She can be pregnant within 6 weeks. So roughly every 9 months, if the conditions are good, she will breed every 9 months.
And percentage of twins that you would see?
Never found.
Hard to tell, I suppose.
Never found ones that I could say 100%.
Yeah.
And I've shot, like, over the years, I've shot hundreds of them. I've
Yeah.
never cut twins out of them, and I always check. I've never actually pulled twins out of a Samba.
Yeah.
And I thought I would have if it was half regular. I thought I would have found it.
Yeah.
I've found them, and I've had myself almost convinced that that's a twin. And then I've spooked them and watched one of the fawns take off in a different direction because that ain't his mum.
Yeah.
He's with his sister or his auntie, like he's with
exactly.
someone else, and he's just following around because the two young ones. I've got a video of what I can see was 2 hinds and 5 fawns that are all within a month old, playing, running, chasing each other around. And 40 minutes, I couldn't find any more than 2 hinds. And then as soon as it started to get darker and we moved around, all of a sudden they started popping out and they all started going back to their mums. They were just in like this little half crèche playing together near this one larger hind, but their mums were all there. They were just sitting down, not moving around. And the young ones were up playing. You think, oh, how could she have so many around? But yeah, often I don't think they're twins. I think more often than not there's
No, you're right.
Mum and another mum hidden that you don't see.
Yeah, often you do see them sort of follow along, but you can't be 100% certain. Like,
spook them and find out where they go.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
What I started doing. Like, I've had mum and a fawn, what I thought, playing and walking in front of me until I spook him, and then the fawn runs back past you, and then you turn around and mum's standing in the thick stuff over there, and you didn't even know she was there.
No,
that was sister over here. He was following around.
Yeah. All right, Zach Roberts, lads, what's your favourite deer recipes? Not step by step, but just basic idea. Mate, for me, I need to keep it simple, and lately I've been experimenting with just venison rubs. The other day I just cut backstrap probably, I don't know, about 10 mil thick, probably about so big. Put the rub on it, probably a pan as hot as I possibly could, maybe 2 minutes either side, if that, and then just slice through it. Put on a bit of salad. It was simple, and it was bloody fantastic. And that's what I think for venison. For me, like, I like to have it when we're out in the field, and I'll often also I'll corn the meat and then sort of prep it before we go, because that sort of salt through it sort of preserves it in the colder months, so you can take it in your backpack up for sort of 9-10 days unless the temperature's good. So the simple stuff is good for me. What about yourself, mate?
I get asked it constantly. My 3 main sort of go-tos is turning the backstraps into schnitzels, and to make a nice fancy schnitzel, go 50-50 breadcrumbs and smashed corn chips. So get a packet of Doritos and smash them so they're like breadcrumbs. Mix it with your breadcrumbs and then cook that, and you get that real corn chip flavour in your schnitzels, and they are great. And if you want to go a bit fancier, you cut them into like tenders and then use them in dipping sauce. They're brilliant for that, for like finger food.
Yeah.
The other thing that I go to that works really well is a Weber. Roasting them in a Weber, the charcoal, like a charcoal Weber, not a gas one.
Yeah.
Charcoal flavour just works really well with it.
That's
simple.
That's the key. I think most people that come home and they'll cook something on the fire, maybe like we use the Ozspit quite a bit when we're away and cooking chooks to whatever we get.
Yep.
You cook it on the fire, then you'll come home and you'll use some heat beads or whatever. It's mate, the flavours aren't there. The smoke flavour through the wood. You're better off throwing a bit of wood on top of the heat beads or whatever, just to get some that burnt sensational, that smoke flavour through it. You can't put a price on that, to be honest with you.
No, that's good flavour. The other one that I do that has been lately, last few years, is what started off as a slow cooker, but now the pressure cooker. And doing it as then just so it pulls apart, then there's making gravy rolls out of it, like doing as pulled venison.
Yeah, well, Rob
That's
did.
Been a crowd favourite.
Well, these new high-tech pressure cookers are a little bit different to what my mum had years ago. Rob Fickling brought one down to the ADA, and I was amazed. It was almost like a spaceship, the way it pressured up and pressured down and whatever, and it was bloody fantastic. And what it did in 45 minutes was incredible. So
I'll do my kids' parties and stuff with it, and then pull it out. And I'll if I'm going to do something like that, I'll do it the day before. Yeah. Pressure them all up, get them all to pull apart. Next day, whack them in the slow cooker with gravy, and just let them sit there and get them all up and heat them up with that. And then they're ready to serve out of that. And they just go bananas over it. Just rolls and and
those pressure cookers are as cheap as chips now. They're well under $100, most of them. So No, it's I think I'll be investing in one.
I just half fill it. I put about a litre of stock. Like if I put a whole round or a whole topside or something in it, I'll put a litre of stock in it, and then cook it in that. Use that, pull it apart, then take the stock and the juice from the stock, and make like a gravy from that.
So, do you have a Master Chef course going with the Bogey's place? Do you?
That's actually is on the cards. I've been asked that many times that I was setting up to be doing an actual sort of standalone cooking, like the whole, not just cooking, but because I already do butchering, but more butchering, more advanced and into cooking, because I make salamis and sausages and hamburgers, and I make all that stuff myself. It's small goods.
Mate, it's fantastic.
So I'll teach people how to do the whole lot, but where I teach them, my accommodation and my cool room had a big tree fall down and smash it all this year, so I'm sort of out of where I normally work at the moment.
Yeah, that'll do it to you every time, those big trees.
Accommodation for the moment.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to get the accommodation and everything up as soon as possible when we get through this little speed hump, we'll call it. Righto. Luke Y. Hey guys, Paul, what's your percentage of sitting and waiting versus stalking and walking around? What have you found turns up more deer?
Yeah, probably 50-50. I do either. It depends. Like I might be based on the customer and then the conditions. Certain days work better for moving, other days don't work as good for moving. And my idea of hunting and the way I try to train people to hunt them is it's a combination.
Yeah.
You move when the conditions allow it to move, and you sit when they don't. And I'll normally start a day off by getting somewhere in the dark, waiting in the dark. Like this morning, me and a mate come up, wanted to go for a hunt. We started at 5 this morning. We left at 5 this morning. Not daylight till nearly 7. Yeah. We only had a half an hour drive. We left at 5. To get there, make sure no one else is there, pull up, wait in the dark. They forgot. When it was still dark, then walk over, then get in the spot, have a look. But they didn't know, they got over the car because the car got here over an hour ago. Then we had to walk in a few hundred metres into where I want to first start looking. And then we just sat there waiting for it to get light to then glass and look. From there, then the next first hour or so, we actually moved around and checked out a few spots and walked around and looking for a few more deer. And then when the day goes on and it gets to the middle of the day, most of the deer were bedded. If you look at the posted photos of today, by the end of our hunt, all we're finding is deer bedded. I'm back to doing not a lot of moving, a lot more looking and glassing because I'm trying to find deer that aren't moving. Yeah. And if I'm the only thing moving, I stand out. So I've got to then stop moving. So it's making your movements and your patterns fit in with nature. That's what people forget.
And like you said, you've got to look at the conditions too. If you've got if you want to hunt on more of a drier side, it's drier underfoot and it's a windy day, well, you take advantage when those gusts come through and then you make your movements and whatever. So as you said, you've got to take advantage of the conditions that you're actually hunting in. And there's no standard pattern to set. Each time you go out, you've got to think, well, this is what I've got to work with. How am I going to do it? And that
the tricks to blend in from me.
Yeah, exactly.
So be with what's happening. If the animals are moving, that's when we can be moving. When the animals are not, we need to be not moving because you've got to fit the pattern that they're dictating.
Yeah, as they say, look a lot, move very little. Matt W's just said, when are the calls going to be available from? What we said, a month or so. Is that right?
We are hopefully before that. Hopefully they turn out within the next couple of weeks.
And when they do come up, they'll come up on all your pages and whatever. No worries.
Yeah, we posted up everywhere saying they're available.
Hi Paul, this is from Philip Hart. Do you still get buck fever?
I still get excited.
Yeah.
I don't know about buck fever, but excited. Unfortunately for me, I've never really had it. I get it. I will get excited, but the moment I decide I'm going to shoot something, I don't notice that I'm moving. I don't notice I'm excited. I don't notice I'm shaking. My focus becomes just on the impact point on the animal and trying to make sure that's all I'm looking at. Yeah. And that's what I try to train people is forget everything except where you want the bullet to hit. And if you're focusing all your attention there, that's where you'll hit. You tend to go where you aim. It's like driving a car. If you're too busy watching that pole, you're more than likely going to hit it. If you're looking at the gap to miss the pole, you're more than likely to go through the gap. That's the same when you're shooting. If you're looking at that, and that's all I do, the rest of it goes out the window. I got 30-inch heads on the wall that I shot, knew I got them, and they go, what is it? And I'm like, I don't know, mid-20s head, something. I didn't once I decided, I forget the antlers. They don't exist. I'm not hitting them.
Well, put it this way, I'm shocking for one of the boys comes out with me or whatever, and if we see a deer, and I've been sort of looking for these deer maybe for a week, and we found them, we go in and I say, listen, you see this buck or stag or whatever this morning, it's all yours. I reckon I'm worse and put pressure on them than anything, to the point where I'm probably making them that nervous. Now, that's got to be hard for you. Let's say you see a 30-inch or a 28-inch, a good stag. How do you react with those people that you're guiding? As in, are you pretty smooth, calm and collected, or are you sort of say, don't you miss sort of thing?
No, I'm not. No pressure on them at all. I've had every way you can think of mucking deer up. I've had it with people and customers, and it's there's no point putting any more pressure on them.
No.
And I tell people, and I have had people turn around and just apologise to me, just flat out just apologise. I'm sorry. For what?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it? Was that a memorable? You won't forget that experience forever. All right, you unloaded 3 live rounds and you forgot to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
But you will never forget it, and it was a great experience. Don't apologise. Enjoy the moment.
No,
it's not just about getting it and killing it. Like, some of my best
Yep.
memories is stuff that I've mucked up.
Yep.
I
And
had
look,
a really good stag. My magazine fell. I didn't realise that when I went to shoot him. I knew I missed him in the first one, and he ran over and he stopped close to me. And I went, "You're dead now." Click.
yeah,
What's going on? And there was no magazine, and the deer looked at me standing there. Then he ran
Yeah.
away.
it happens to us. It happens to us all. But look, again, like you said, they're the things you get back to the campfire or whatever at night, and you'll laugh, you'll take the piss out of each other, whatever. But that's part of it, and I think that's a massive part of hunting, is just enjoying the whole thing.
Well,
And
it's not life or death. We're not.
No, exactly.
It's our only source of food.
no, I know. It doesn't stop me from hanging shit on them. I'm
no,
a shocker for it.
I don't mind a good bit of banter.
Oh yeah.
I probably get more nervous actually making sure that I'm hitting record on the camera than I do trying to pull the trigger.
Right. Yes.
But I've been pulling the trigger for nearly 30 years. That's kind of natural. You just do it. The camera is only the last sort of 15 years, and am I recording? Am I recording it? Yes, I'm recording.
And it certainly adds a tricky aspect to it. That's for sure.
I think it's harder. Getting good photos and videos, I reckon it's harder because you're trying to take in so many factors.
Yeah.
The focus, make sure it's focused where you want, make sure it fits in the frame, make sure you got it on record, make sure it's all working. When a gun, you go, there it is. I can't see anything except his chest. Who cares? Shoot that.
Yeah.
The rest of it's out of frame. It's behind trees. Doesn't matter. But a camera, it does.
No, exactly. It's a challenge, that's for sure. Righto. Matt Boxwell. Hey fellas, I always hear to take it slow when looking for deer, but I feel like if I take it slow, I won't barely be able to cover the land. How do you find a happy medium? Well, you just don't expect to see deer every time you go out. That's the key. I mean, like, you just got to be prepared to cover the ground well, and just don't be disappointed. That would be my advice.
Yeah, that's the mindset. I'd rather you hunt the area properly and not see deer than not hunt it properly and push deer away.
Yeah, that's right. Because
you can only go as fast as your eyes can see. So, and the pace that you've got to move at is how fast you can identify everything you see. So if you can walk and it's relatively open, you can walk faster because you can identify stuff quicker because there's less to look at. The thicker the bush gets, the slower you have to get because there's so many more things that could be deer that you have to identify.
Yeah. Look, obviously, when you go into a new area, look for a bit of sign. But if you can get into a location that so the first couple of times you can get there, get into a location that you can find that you can sit back and glass. Even if you're glassing at opposite sides, sit there for the whole day for the first few trips there. And eventually you will, if the deer are there, you will see them. And it's a whole trick is to see them before they see you. If you walk through there every weekend and don't see a deer, they've probably been in there. But like Paul said, they've been gone, and eventually all you're going to do is push those deer into a new location. So I won't say you've wasted your time, but you haven't used your time well, would be my words. Right.
You can't go too slow.
No, not really.
I've been with customers, and it's got like 2 hours we've been gone, and we're only 200 metres from the car.
Yeah.
That's all we've covered in 2 hours, but we've seen a few deer.
But how many deer have you pulled up in the car, gone 50 metres from the car and shot one? I guarantee you've probably had a few of those happen.
Well, when I had Aussie Hunt Adventure boys come out, Dave Fenn come out and film with me 3 times during the week, we said, I'll just park here. What we're going to do is I'll just walk over the edge. I'll show you where we're going to walk in here, and we'll glass over there. Honk! Oh, 3 times for the week. We got out of the car, walked 20 metres to talk about how we're going to approach it, and it's a deer standing looking at us.
Yeah, it happens to us all. And never when you're expecting it. But I tell you what, that early morning honk, it certainly makes your hair stand up on the back of your neck.
Yeah, you don't get used to it.
Yeah. Cole Curtis, just on the deer caller, I reckon that they will work well on chittle deer with a bit of experimenting. Well, like Bogie said, I think they pretty much work on everything.
They definitely work on the Samba. They definitely work on the Rooster. I'm pretty sure that they work on the. I've played a little bit on the hog deer. I've got to play a bit more on the hog deer, but they seem to be able to be. Yeah, I reckon I can mimic their sound pretty well with it too.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think to have it with you is not going to hurt. You mean it's a little bit like if you're out with fellow and you think, oh, I might just give it a bit of a rattle. It doesn't hurt as long as you don't I think the key is don't overdo it at the start. See how they react. I think it's the key to any animal.
Try to actually be natural, not unusual.
Yeah.
Start making too much noise. They're like, what the hell's wrong with that thing over there? Maybe don't go over there.
And not only that, when you use in any call, the whole idea is to get their attention, not give away your position completely. Just to get them sort of, what's like you've said, just over that direction.
Yeah, and you get a Samba staring and looking in your direction too much. They tend to notice you.
Yeah, they do. Zach Barthelson, I hope I say your name right. Zach, I rang the training places today regarding Vic safety courses, still waiting to be allowed to run them, apparently. All right. Hi Country Hunter. Hi Rob, love the show. Thanks, mate. Question for both of you. What's the biggest stag you guys have shot? I don't measure them, mate, so I couldn't tell you, but there's none over 30, I can tell you that much. But I'm sure Bogey's, they are more than he knows.
Yeah, I've got their biggest one. I've only got only 30 and a half. I've never managed to get 31 or better, just 30 and a half, but yeah.
But you don't forget those big boys, though. Guarantee.
No, you don't. But it's all comes down with the hunt too.
Yeah, exactly.
The hunt itself's got to mean something to you.
Yeah.
I could have shot ones that have stood there and looked at me out of the car window.
Yeah.
Me and my dad seen a really nice one day and went, yep, and he could have shot him. He's standing looking at us.
Yeah.
And we went, we'll hunt you tomorrow morning, and a young bloke shot him. We went and put dogs on him the next morning, and a young bloke shot him, and that meant over the world. And he was at nearly 31 by 32 wide.
Yeah.
And the young bloke, that was great. Like it wouldn't have meant nothing to me to shoot it. Like it would have been a trophy in itself, but there was no hunt, there was no story behind it. There was nothing that gave me any meaning for to look at it. And I was looking at for the last 26 years. I've had one that I mounted on the wall, first one. Yeah. And I look at him all the time, and I can remember. I close my eyes and remember exactly how he come, how he walked, and how I shot him, everything. It's right there, but that's what it's about.
But like you mentioned before, too, how much pleasure do you get from filming some of them and being able to look back at them too? You know, it for me, it plays a massive part into, you know, like getting good footage of these animals and being able to look back at it means, in some cases, look, for me, look, we love processing the animal, and if we can, I'm sure like yourself, you'll take every bit of that animal where you can. A lot of times it's not possible, but for me, if I'm got a full freezer or whatever, I'm not in a hurry to go out and shoot any deer, whether it's a stag or a hind or whatever. But once it starts to get a little bit low, or someone else says to me, listen, our freezer's getting a little bit empty, well, yeah, bang, you switch on again, you're ready to go. But I know you, with the dogs and just the family and whatever, you must be going through deer or venison like it's going out of fashion, mate.
Yes. Yeah. I give plenty away to the farmers and stuff that give me access up here. I'll make them up a heap. I turned the last deer into sausages and hamburgers just so they could have some and give it to them to try. But back to his question, I don't think you can measure a real trophy in inches. No. It has to have meaning. That's what it means to you to look at it. Yeah. If you look at it on your wall, wherever it is, and it brings you a happy memory, well, that's a trophy. Yeah, exactly.
And that trophy in a lot of cases is going to be through a lot of fatigue, a lot of hard work, but sometimes the biggest ones might, like you said, might be the easiest that you've shot, and you'll think, I remember that one that was half the size, but I carried it out for 5 kilometres with a full backpack. I was spent. You'll remember that, and as much as you're hurting at the time, you're probably thinking, oh, I'm keen to get in again in a couple of months.
Look at the last three, number one, like on the Douglas score, last three, number one, Roughhead, McPherson, and Minogue. All was their first deer. All
Yeah.
three were their very first deer, first Samba they'd ever shot.
Yeah.
Becomes new Australian record. Like, that was just all luck, right place,
Yeah.
right time. There was not a lot of effort and skill.
Yeah.
McPherson brought his gun Thursday, shoots Roughhead brought a gun Thursday, shoots the Australian record on Saturday.
Yeah, mate. It can happen. You know, look, to a degree, hunting, as much as you can put in the hard work, sometimes it comes down to luck. And sometimes you're unlucky. A lot of times you're lucky too. It doesn't matter what you're hunting. So
I've worked hard to shoot some not very big deer, and they sit pride of place because
yeah.
they were a good, memorable hunt. And I worked hard to get them, and they're not the biggest trophy, but they still mean a lot.
All right, we'll move on. A few of the people just answering each other's questions, which is good of them. Good evening, gents. This is from ESP 351. Paul, what binos and rangefinder do you use for hunts?
Mine's built in. I got Leica Geovids.
Have you found those been good?
Yeah. Happy with them.
No, they make good stuff. Now I've just skipped down and it's jumped up about 3 pages. This is what happens. You think I'm coming to the end, Paul. How you travelling, mate? You don't mind keep going?
Oh, good. Beer's cold, so.
Oh, that's good.
Wife refreshed my beer, so it was all good work.
Oh, she's good to you. Righto, Dan Stevens is a mad keen deer hunter. Possibly a stupid question, as I'm not at all new to hunting, but do Samba drink every day? I think they would, but I don't know. I don't think it's a silly question.
No, there is no such thing as a silly question. But no, they don't. They don't need to go to water that frequently. Like, saying that, it's a generalisation. General where you hunt Samba deer, the high country, no, not at all. They don't need to go to water. They get most of their moisture from their food. They're a bit more like a goat that way. They don't actually have to frequent water as much. But the coastal Samba you get, and the population that's growing along the coast, with all the salt bush and the higher salt content, they do go to water really regularly.
Yeah.
The general ones, and I've had areas where I've had some really good access to some big properties, hundreds of acres. I know there's a good population of deer on it. The only access is dams, and gone and put trail cameras and left them on the dams and left them there all year round, and never got one picture of a deer going there to drink.
Even over the summer period, sort of thing. What's
even 40-degree days.
Mate, just shows how resilient they are and adaptive they are.
They know every water source too, so they know every little hole, little wombat hole that's gathered a bit of water.
Yeah, they can smell it.
Every little bit. They know where some is, but I've never got any footage. I've seen them drink. I've watched them. They do drink, but they get a lot of it from the moisture in their food, because the way they do eat, they chase the green growth on everything. They only want to eat the freshest growth on everything that's available, so they eat that green, fresh shoots with all the moisture in it. They get a lot of moisture in their feed.
Okay, Matty Cato here. What is preaching?
Preaching it's to do with scent communication, and it's about transmitting scent over a larger area. So the deer they'll scrape at the ground. They'll call the scrape. The preaching tree comes in two parts. Comes the tree and the scrape. The tree itself, either part of the tree is overhanging, or the hill's on an angle, the tree's growing on an angle, so the tree itself's leaning on an angle, and they stand on their back legs and put their scent as high as they can. It spreads over a larger area, so they can actually catch the breeze. Like, you imagine scent set on the ground, there's not a lot of breeze, but you get 3-4 meters off the ground, and you start to catch more breeze. So it actually carries their scent over a larger area. So more deer in that area can smell them from further away. So that's why they go to the effort. Same reason a dog cocks his leg to pound a tree, and a cat sprays, like a tomcat sprays to get up. You gotta remember, these things coming from Asia have tigers to deal with that are already like 3 foot tall at the hip. When they spray, they'd get it up 6-8 foot. Samba stand up, they get their scent from their scent glands, their preorbital glands below their eyes, these glands in here. They get them up and rub them on the tree, and anything that's on them that they're scent, like they'll urinate on their face as well while they get mud. They can get that 10 foot in the air. Then it carries the scent.
And what trees do you find that they prefer? There's obviously a few that they sort of prefer to go to, but then again, it depends what's in the area, I suppose.
It does depend on the area, and they'll use, it's more to do with whether the tree has something overhanging. Like, I'll have them use a monstrous big stringy bark trees and big gums with one good leaning limb out of them. And then I'll see them using just like a composite bush or a tea tree bush that's leaning. Wattles, they get into the wattles. They
Wild
like
cherry.
Cherries, they like the cherries. A lot of cherries, they turn into signpost trees more than preaching, or a bit of both. Like, they tend to rub and leave scent down low. Mark it on there.
All right. The Watcher. How much meat would you take from a deer? All of it, if we can.
As much as I can carry.
Yeah.
And that's... Yeah,
that's a lot in a big stag.
Oh, yeah.
A lot in a big stag.
Everything you can get off it.
Yeah. Dean Murphy. Hi, Robbo and Bogey. If I'm hunting and spook a wallaby or pack of kangaroos, will that alert the deer to my presence? Well, if they're close, yeah, there's a very good chance of it. But what they do about it?
It's more what you do about it.
Yeah.
They can't. There's no communication. So, if like we're the human, we're the smarter species, supposedly. All those dedicated TV shows how dumb we are, but we're supposedly the smarter species. If kangaroos come hopping past you, well, what spooked them?
Yeah.
You tell me what spooked them. We're smarter, so we don't know. The deer has no idea. All it knows is that something's happened. Now it's going to be alert, and it's trying to then identify. And being Samba, they're not a herd mentality. They want to identify danger themselves. So they tend to go into two modes. They tend to stay still and freeze to start with. And that'll be 1-2 minutes of not moving and just looking and listening.
Yeah.
Then they might move a little bit to try and investigate it further. But if you stay still and you don't move after you spooked them for the next 5 to 10 minutes, there's every chance that deer is now going to give itself away, standing out of its bed, stepping out from behind a tree, trying to just figure out what happened, and then you get to shoot the deer. It can actually really work in your favour. I can use it effectively more to me than them if you play the cards right. Just stop, freeze, do nothing.
Yeah, because
let it unfold. The tension tends to be looking at where the kangaroos are and not you. So don't give yourself away now.
Yeah. No, and like we said earlier, they could stand dead still for 20, 30 minutes, maybe longer. Like how I don't know if I'm sure you have. How many times you've popped your head up over and looking into a gully early morning, and there'll be one deer stand up the top. Often it's the female, the hind. It's up high and it's just a sentry. It's the one just watching and standing, and they'll be dead still. But the often what will give them away is they'll love a bit. If it's a cold night, they'll love that sun first thing in the morning. But you'll see that first deer, or you may see that first deer, but she'll pick you. Look. I don't know, I won't say the stag. Well, actually I will. I reckon the stags are pretty lazy. They let all the hinds do all the work. They're their sentries. They'll be bedded down maybe somewhere, and there might be half a dozen hinds or 2 or 3 hinds around them. And they're relying on them, basically, to... and that's what you've got to be aware of. If you see a stag, make sure before you start to go in on it, you're looking for any hinds that are around it, because that's what's going to bust it for you.
Yeah, he's selfish. He'll push them all in front of the bus.
Righto. Rob Cam. Is camo overrated? No, I think it has its place myself.
No, it's not overrated, but camo is anything that's broken pattern. Yeah. Anything that takes the solid shape of us out. So we hunted for years and just checkered bush shirts. And that, into a deer's eye, that's camouflage. It's a broken pattern. And that's all it is. Just the way the deer's eyes work, they're not designed to be a predator. They're not forward-focusing eyes that look through the bushes as effective as we do. They don't get the same definition through. They're more peripheral vision to be able to notice there's something creeping up on them. So anything that breaks your pattern of your shape makes you blend into the broken pattern in the background better.
Yeah, and like you were saying earlier, to go to the degree of covering your face, the big white bowl that stands out there, look, you can have all the camo on, but your hands and your face, you've missed the, to a degree, and I'm taking...
Walking around in bright sunlight and standing out and being silhouetted, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. Like if you're not putting yourself in the right positions as you're moving around, camo is not going to help you either.
No,
exactly. You got to think about the world from their point of view most of the time.
Yeah.
How are they seeing me? And if you're hiding as you're creeping around, you're staying in shadows and out of sight, camo works more effectively. Yeah, and
I think too, also making sure that you've got a backdrop all the time. You mean like having trees behind you or something? Even if you're walking around the fringe country, you don't want to walk 50 or 60 yards out from the tree. You're better off being close to the trees, So you know, if they're out further, they're not gonna pick you as easy. Just an
Well,
obvious
it's
little
not going to be in
thing.
front of you or behind you, but something's got to break your shape up.
Yeah, exactly. So, Dom Dogs, are you required to carry a GPS in Victoria? I don't believe so, but I think most people would now. Very handy piece of equipment. So, or your phone. Most of the phones have got GPS built into them now. So,
Yes, yeah, and that. But I don't rely on any of that stuff. I tell people they're getting into it, they're new and they're not sure.
yeah,
Work on the theory of getting a map, understanding the area going on, and having an exit plan.
Yes.
Worst case scenario, hopefully you never make it there.
Yeah.
But what happens if you are not sure? If you pre-planned for it, you kind of go back to default method in your own brain. When you're stressed, you go back to what you know. And if you're already planned that all I've got to do is walk down the hill, I'll hit the road, I'll be out, and then I'll find my car from there, or I hit the creek and I follow it down, it goes back to the road. As long as you've got that plan already in the back of your mind, you tend to then make the right decisions when things come undone. I've rescued a few people over the years, and they're from spots that I didn't think you should be able to get lost, and they've just got themselves bushed in their own head more than anything else.
Yeah, and
some convincing themselves that directions are wrong. I've had people tell me the GPS is lying to them. It keeps telling me to go right, and I know I've got to go left. No, you do have to go right. You've just got dehydrated, haven't looked after yourself enough, and started to stress out, make wrong decisions.
I think another thing that often happens too with people when don't ever count out two places or two locations in the bush looking very similar. And you can come down to one area and whatever, and then you think, as in you've been circling around, you might be getting a bit tired, and all of a sudden, you think you're back in the same spot.
Yeah.
But it's probably a different location that just happens to look very surprisingly similar. And that can really do your head in. So,
or gullies that split into multiples you didn't realise. So you've covered 2 gullies at the top, but by the time they've got to the bottom, you've got an extra middle ridge, and there's 3 gullies along the bottom and not 2 at the top, and it changes. Things change.
No, look, the technology's good. Having the UHFs in case of emergency. Look, obviously now we've got the InReaches and all them again. I think them in themselves, I've had one for about a year or so now. I don't use it a lot, but as another backup, it doesn't hurt to have it. If you can afford one, buy one. Or at least have an EPIRB if you're going into these remote areas. Yeah, exactly.
Cheap.
Yeah.
They're cheap, and just hit the button if you're stuck, and they'll come rescue you. Talk to a paramedic, they go, I'd rather rescue a not very injured person than try to look for a dead body.
Yeah,
so
exactly. ID Tomney, hi guys, any tips for training a deer-stalking indicating dog? I'm probably not the best person for that. You obviously got the hounds. Have you had much to do with the other breeds?
Patience. Lots and lots of patience, and the trick is you can't make the dog do anything or tell you anything. You've got to learn to read your dog.
Yeah.
It's all about understanding your dog and getting the dog into habit, and the best thing you can do is get the dog to the habit that it wants to communicate with you constantly. So all the time you are anywhere near the dog, have communication with it. Whether it's just stay, a hand signal that says stay there in your bed, and come here and give it a pat, go over there, get used to being hand signals, and the dog looking for that reassurance from you that when you're hunting the bush, the dog wants to stay in visual contact with you to double check everything it's doing. So it automatically doesn't go out of sight because that's how it is trained to stay within sight. And then early days, start them on something you can see to read their body language. So ducks are really good, like wood ducks are great because you can find them easy, and you can find them in open areas where you can use a thermal or a breeze to get downwind and then check the reactions of the dog. Yeah, well, it's all about reading the dog.
I've always thought of my dogs when they were younger, like with Jack Russells and whatever, when we were doing foxes and whatever years ago, and I always found a good thing when they were pups is just get them used to being with you. And the other thing is, like Boag's just said, I found sort of hide from them every now and then. If they started to go too far away, get in behind a tree and hide from them. After a while, they'll start to say, oh, I don't want to lose where you are. Because you don't want to be calling your dogs every 5 minutes. You want them to be looking for where you are. And that's an easy way. Your dogs won't want to lose you. Well, they shouldn't. Because they know who feeds them. But, what have we got here? Rob14539. Question for Paul. What's your knife of choice for tidying up Samba?
A butcher quality knife. Any of the butcher style knives is what my main go-to. Like for general for the average person, if you're good with a knife, then get a good knife.
Yeah.
Like if you actually can use it, like I love Robbo, I love Herbie's knives, R&M blades, because he makes them that good, that sharp. They can hold an edge. But if you're not good with them, you blunt them very easily, and they're hard. They're trickier to sharpen later. You can't just quickly get an edge back on them. But I can cut 6 deer up with one before I need to, because I don't make too many mistakes with it. To start with, you tend to make a lot of mistakes: fur, skin, hidden bones, rattling around trying to get the legs off. So start with a cheaper, softer steel that can be easily touched up with, say, the pull-through type sharpeners, so you can get an edge back on enough to keep you going, and then you'll find that'll get better as you progress.
And the thing is, like the Swebos, maybe the Victoronics, the Dexter Russells, I've found those have been readily available. Yeah, and they are cheap. Most of them are sub $100, and readily available. You've got a bright handle of some colour. So look, you don't have to have the fanciest knife as long as it's sharp. And like you said, don't be afraid. Trust me, I'm the worst at butchering deer, but every time I do it a different way and learn something different each time. No different to skinning foxes or whatever. So.
I sell some Buffalo River ones that are just little sets that are like $60, $80 sets.
Yeah.
You get 3 or 4 knives and a little sharpener. They're perfect.
Yeah,
just soft. You get an edge on them easy. You can do what you got to do. They cut deer up. Yeah. You don't need an expensive knife to cut a deer up.
I think the trick, like you said, though, too, is to get under the... don't try and cut from the outside in so much. I find once you've broken through, cut from the inside up, and you'll save your knife quite a bit as well, as far as saving the edge.
Fastest way to blunt a knife is run it across the outside.
Yeah, because all the dirt and the hair itself is so coarse.
Coarse hollow hair.
Yeah.
Like running on sandpaper.
Yeah, exactly. Right, what have we got here? Wayne Hammond, g'day fellas. Paul, I've heard that Eildon gets a flogging because it's close to Melbourne. I realise you have an angle to exploit this by living close and perhaps midweek. What are your thoughts? I'm not
100%. It does get a flogging.
Yeah.
It does get a hammering. There's people out everywhere all the time. Like, there's not like at times I can go out and look in areas and I can glass up a dozen different people, or find half a dozen different cars parked in areas, move around. That's why I've got to have 100 different spots to know what's going on. And because I'm there every day, I tend to know who was where they were yesterday. So I still have a lot of success because I understand the area better than probably 99% of the people that come in there. So I still know how to get the deer. The deer are still there. Yeah. They just are a lot more switched on, and they behave totally different because they're so used to people hunting them. So their patterns of movement and stuff change from the hunting pressure. Yeah. They adapt to move around to people.
Local knowledge, mate. You can't beat local knowledge. And that's basically what you're, not only your experience, but you're basically offering, when people come up to stay with you, go out, whether it's a day or a few days or whatever, you've got a plan. I guarantee you've already got a plan in your mind. You would have been looking at the weather, you've been looking at how many people have been about, and you got your thumb ready to go, basically. Yeah.
Well, my plan's a whole year plan. Like the season, as the year changes, the feed changes. To do with the elevation on the hill, to do with which direction the gully's facing, holding better food. Yeah. And that has to come into this season, whether we've had last year a dry season, this year a wet season, changes the deer behaviour. Yeah. The whole last 12 months constantly changes their behaviour. And you've got to be thinking about that all the time.
All right, here's a good question. Tim Sigo, what do you prefer, hound hunting or stalking, and why? There you go. Get out of this one, brother.
He's a mate of mine.
You knew you were going to get one. Well, now come on, now you can choose not to answer this if you.
I like them all. That's why I stayed in Victoria and I'm not in Northern Territory.
Yeah, well, that's a very good answer, actually.
I love them both. I love all forms of hunting them. Gun dog, stalking them. Hound hunting's great fun. You can have an absolute ball with your mates. And you can have some great days, and you didn't even see a deer. You didn't shoot a deer, but your mate's got one. Some of my best memories is other people shooting deer. Guys that work hard, they're putting in the hard yards, and then they get a nice stag, or they get their first deer, you get a great buzz. And that's why I'll probably help me doing growing up. And that probably helped me get into the guiding and education, because I got such a kick as someone else getting it.
Yeah.
That was what they got the joy in, like hand and hunt, and then help get a new bloke going, you know what, if you go in here, stand there, walk down there, you'll get it, come past that shooting. It did what you said it was going to do. That was so, and like, good. If I went down, it would have been another deer. Like, I've shot lots and lots of them. I don't need to shoot anymore, but I get a buzz out of someone else getting
No, same, mate. That's why I carry the camera a lot more than I carry the rifles now. I'm happy to watch someone else do it and actually catch that and share it where possible. It doesn't always work, but I've got a quick question regarding it mightn't be quick, because it's actually, I'm interested to know with the hounds and whatnot. Like, obviously your dad and and the generations before being hound hunting. Now your dad would have seen the progression into the electronic side of it, the collars and that. What did he first think when those all of a sudden the collars started going? He must have thought this stuff is unbelievable.
Yeah, it was probably more the fact that me and my brother were onto that. I think if we left it to Dad, we'd still not have the technology.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just mind changed. Like, Dad went from the days of not having radios.
Yeah.
Having radios, they thought, was a big technology change. The fact that you could actually call someone else to tell them to come find you or pick you up, or know that the hunt's gone that way. Okay, I can get out of where I am.
Yeah.
And then the progression into the like the telemetric tracking, then into the GPS tracking, it's changed. Technology's changed everything.
And just for argument's sake, which are you running? Look, I'm not up with obviously it's most likely a Garmin product. Are you running the latest stuff, or are you still happy with the older stuff, or what's?
No, we're on the alphas.
Okay, and that's the current stuff, is it?
Yeah, the current stuff, yeah.
Okay, and what sort of range have you? Obviously, it comes down. Well, it's a tracking.
Line of sight.
It is like, so it's basically like a UHF signal, pretty much.
Yeah, but it works on VHF signals, so it's actually better. You get better bounds.
Yep.
So we'll go over better hills than that, but it works kilometres in line of sight. Like, if you're in a valley and they're up on a mountain range, it'll work line of sight kilometres. Yeah,
well, like I said the other day, I just happened to get onto My Outdoor TV, and I flicked onto your episode, the double episode on Beyond the Divide, and when the Torbison, was it Torbson, or I forget his name, sorry mate if I'm not pronouncing it right, but the boys come over from Aim Point and whatever, and I just thought the way you organised it, whatever, it was bloody really interesting, and I thoroughly enjoyed that, to be honest with you. But
it's very strategic at times. Like, you got to think 1, 2, 3 steps ahead to be successful. You can't just go the deer are here, hopefully we shoot it there. Well, what happens when you don't? Where's next point and the next point and the next point? You need to kind of have it all planned out a bit to a degree, and then run with it as it happens. And
knowing the ground too as well, like having past experience in that, like I've seen a lot of the boys that were hunting with you, they sort of thought, I know that this is a ridge that they'll often come through, or a gully they'll run down. You can't, again, put a price on that as well.
No,
so
can't beat local knowledge.
All right, what do we got here, mate? How are you travelling?
Yeah.
Oh, we're up to 2 hours. That's good. Right. Here we go. A few have skipped up here, Paul. Just bear with me, mate. All right, Wayne Hammond. Suggestion for me to hunt the area whilst using a boat for access. Sorry, ran out of characters. Suggestions for me to hunt the area. I'm not sure what he's meaning by this question. Where to hunt, or
how to hunt an area?
Yeah, well, he's quite using his boat.
Hunting out of the boat's good. I hunt the lake out of the boat a fair bit.
Yeah.
You got to pay attention to like what face you're on, to whether the thermals are coming and going, like how long they're going to rise, but how long you got to hunt. Often when I hunt out of a boat, I sacrifice one gully to hunt the other ones. So it starts off with getting out of the boat, and it's the annoying part, because you know that I've got half a K climb up this hill to then get in the right zone, and then I hunt sideways.
Yeah.
Get elevation first. I love elevation when hunting. I'd rather be higher than lower nearly all the time.
Yeah. All animals for some reason don't tend to look up as much as they look down, I find. You mean?
But sense, by then the daylight time, sense normally travelling up, so the thermals, you get them wrong, they're normally going higher than you. Sound travels up better than it travels down, so it's harder for them to hear if they're lower than you. And you can see looking under the trees better than you can see looking up into the trees. Because you're looking into the canopy.
That's a good point.
When you look down, you look under them.
So bottom line is, like, if you were going to go for a weekend, obviously, if you're going to go on a boat, you're going to maybe roll your swag out on the boat. You're going to have to try and get up early and pick a gully or something to get up high and just take the risk you don't bump them on the way up. But depends how big
you
it
have
is.
to accept that you sacrifice one gully. Whatever happens, that gully is sacrificed and hunt from there.
Yeah, no, exactly. All right, Craig Harris. Hi, boys. Great chat. What's your opinion on using a 45-7 on Samba? I'm an ex-dogger, now stalker. Well, 45-70 is a hard calibre not to sort of look at for bloody dogging. For anything with deer on the move.
It's a good close range stuff.
Yeah.
It starts to run out of legs when you start getting out.
Yeah.
Like it's great. It's great. 100 up to 150 meter gun. It starts to then minimal, like a drop on it starts to really.
And it's fair recoil to it too. And most of them are going to be lever guns as well. So, in a lot of cases, I found a lot of lever guns. The triggers have been pretty average on them stock as well. Not that it's detrimental, but it's not an advantage having a 4 or 5 pound trigger either.
No, if you hadn't thick stuff. A thicker bush with close range and a lot of your deer are close, then that's fine because it will punch through the little light scrub better too. So like that's some of that new G and that sort of area where it's nice and it's thick and it's dense. You're finding a lot of deer under 100 meters and they're just in a little light scrub. 45-7 is good to punch through a bit of tea tree and tree fern and not be affected by it.
No, well, I was
doing longer stuff, top calibers.
I was talking to my uncle a year or so back. He used to be a mad keen deer hunter when I was a little kid. And I asked him, he gave me a whole lot of his old stuff a while back, including projectiles and just manuals and whatever. And one of them was a Ruger manual. And I said to him, why'd you have this? And he said, that was my favourite deer hunting rifle. And of all, your 10-22, your semi-automatic, he had one in a 44 Magnum. And he said in the scrub, that was his favourite gun. We're talking 50, 60 years ago now. But that was his favourite gun, the 44 Magnum, semi-auto. And he said he just kept shooting until they dropped, basically. So,
I know back like my grandfather, and even into my father's thing, they were shotguns and solid slugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they all started off.
No, it's simple, and I guarantee they didn't have camo. David McGuinness, g'day boys. If you hunt a gully area, how long until you hunt it again? Have you found your scent keeps deer away for a certain amount of time? What do you think of that? I think it comes down to rain too, for starters.
Comes down to the conditions. Yeah. It comes down to if it rains, the rain will wash it away and it disappears relatively quick. If you get a lot of rain, it can disappear in 24 hours. Yeah. And then warmer weather will evaporate it too. So hunting in summertime, it's not as bad because the ground dries out, it disappears within a day as well. Yeah. Normal, mild winter conditions, it does affect them for a couple of days. 2 or 3 days, they'll go quiet. Like I'm happy to go back there the following week. I've shot deer and then taken a custom back in there 7 days later and shot the next deer feeding and doing nearly the exact same thing 20 metres when we shot the one the week before.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to how regularly. Like if you went in every week for sort of 6 weeks, obviously the deer are going to say, bugger this, I'm getting out of there. But if you did it maybe twice over sort of 2 months, a week apart, you might be lucky.
But just hunt the next gully over. Yeah. Hunting in an area multiple days means you move slightly, just change to the slightly next gully. At least it's eliminating a gully to be in because they won't be in there because you're sending it up.
Yeah. This is an unusual one. Shane H. Hi, gents. Do you agree we should be able to use an ATV to retrieve or help retrieve harvest animals? Well, the problem straight with ATVs is you can't register them. Well, not easily.
Yes, I say technically it can be, but it's a nightmare.
Yeah, but look, to be honest with you, I wouldn't even. Some of the areas that we go, you never even get an ATV in there.
Even if I had one, it wouldn't help me 50% of the time.
No.
The retrievable winches that you've seen them, the petrol.
Yeah,
winches,
the ones that
capstan style.
Yeah.
They can help you because you can put 100 meters of rope, you drag it 100 meters, you can drag it 100 meters, you can retrieve them with them.
Yeah.
It's slow process. If you want to get them kilometre, you got to do it 10 times.
No, well, we obviously use the ATV when it comes down to the fringe country and whatever, but for general purpose, your licensing and registering of your ATV would be your issue for starters, plus the noise. And I think it'd be more of a disadvantage than an advantage myself.
Break it down, meat bag, carry it out. Yeah. Breaking them down, carrying them out in a meat bag, gagging back legs, front legs, back straps. I feel it's you're taking 80% of 90% of the meat.
Yeah, if you debone it,
internally, but you're taking most of it anyway.
All right, Brendan. Evening, lads. I'm going on my first solo hunt this weekend. I've only ever been out spotlighting before. Any advice? That's from Brendan F. Well, solo hunt. I take it you're talking about deer. I think we're pretty much covered it. Just take your time and don't be in a hurry. Just enjoy what you're doing. But
especially at the moment, the deer are really well off at the moment in the source of food, so they're really quiet. They're a lot quieter this time this year than they were this time last year because there's an abundance of food. Like they're bedding down earlier, they're moving less, they're taking a lot less risks because they don't. Their life is a balance of risk reward, and when there's a lot of food, there's no reward in being out and open too long. It's only risk. So at the moment, the deer are actually a little bit harder to find at this current time now than even general. It hasn't quite cold enough yet.
Yeah, okay.
There's food everywhere.
All right, Robin Coker. Paul, coming into the cooler months, where do you target bedding areas? Out of the wind or morning sun areas?
Out of the wind, always. Always that wind, out of the wind will beat sun anytime. And then it depends where you are, elevation too. In general, that deer will avoid the sun when they can.
Yeah.
Any possible time they would rather not be in the sun than be in the sun. If you get up alpine and you get where you're getting temperatures that are regularly 0 and below at night time, they're chasing the sun. General everyday areas that are not at that elevation and your temperatures overnight are only in the 4 or 5 degrees and stuff like that. It's not as important to chase the sun as it is to chase the conditions. They'd rather be out of the actual wind more than anything. That's their hate.
No.
3/4 of the way up any given side of the hill, and closer to the food. Less pressure, they'll be where the food is.
Yeah.
It's more about food than anything. Everyone goes on about northeast facing gullies. They're looking for the sun. It's more the fact that they hunt wintertime, and that is the best food.
Yeah.
The deer just haven't been bedded there because they're near the food, not just because they're chasing the sun.
And in general, where they feel most protected, the safest, like any animal, if they feel threatened, they're going to go to their hidey holes, so they'll know exactly where they are.
Yep.
So, Rob Cam, how far will deer travel in their normal daily routine, e.g. feeding area to bedding area? It's a pretty general sort of question.
Very sort of hard one to answer because it's going to, at the moment, not far at all because there's lots of food.
Yeah.
When conditions are hard, they will travel kilometres if that's what they've got to do to go get food. They will definitely walk a couple of k's out to get better, pinch some pasture or some food from somewhere else that's better food, and then walk back. They're not sort of above that at all. They'll happily walk a k or two to go get it when they have to. And only when they have to.
It comes down to pressure too, like as most people would realise, when there's more pressure on it, they're going to go nocturnal. But if there's no pressure, you might see them feeding all day long. Look, there's so many different factors in it, but most of these factors you can sort of answer yourself. You think, is there a lot of people in that area? Is there a lot of feed? You can sort of just stop and have a think of where you're hunting.
Think from the deer's point of view more than your own.
Yeah. Drury Davidson, favourite spot in Gippsland? Anywhere in the high country, to be honest with you. Anywhere really doesn't worry me.
Yeah. It's all good. It's more about what you know of the area more than the area itself.
Yeah. I'm just going to skip over a few here, guys. Sorry, I'd love to answer or love to ask Paul all of them here, but I don't know how you travelling, mate.
Yeah, I'm still here.
We'll go a little bit longer, and then I'll just try and pick through a few here now, just to try and get some variation. Okay, Drury Davidson, caliber for a 12-year-old starting shooting. Well, it depends what he's doing, but look, everyone should start with a 22, I think, or an air rifle, just to get their skills up. But
yes, you got to start with like a couple of your skills up, and then if they're going to move, if they already got their skills up, they're moving into deer.
yeah,
Moving probably into a 308 would be a good start into the deer. But my young bloke, he started straight in a 3006, and so did I at that age. But we had a fair bit of gun experience.
yeah.
And depending on the size of the kid, like some of them are built a bit chunky and a bit solider, and others are lighter weight kids that won't handle the recoil as much. But
And depending on the weight of the rifle too. A 3006 and a lightweight rifle compared to, say, an old Bruno or something like that, we had a bit of weight to it and a well-designed timber stock. 3006 with a decent recoil pad can be a completely different rifle to shoot.
Yes.
So, apparently you're for president, Paul. Paul Boag for president. Drury Davison.
Wait, for president. President of what?
I was about to ask that. Well, maybe our mate over in the US might be up for his job. Might be up for grabs, mate. I'm not going to go there. I'm trying to skim through them, Bogey, here. Just bear with me, mate.
Good.
All right. Andre, these Greeks, mate, their names. Popoparov. Question for Bogey. Thanks, fellas. Are you still feeling a bit dirty that you didn't get handed the reins of leading the hound crew over Adam? Do you see this as an insult to the man of your stature? Is this one of your mates or what?
It could be. No, he's my older brother.
Yeah.
He's the older brother. He gets first. He gets first. No, not at all.
You haven't got time for doing all that now too, have you?
No, not even close.
Yeah.
I struggle to make it out of the hounds.
Yeah.
I don't get out nowhere near as much. Like I end up working so many days, and a wife and a young family here at home. You go, It gets harder and harder to justify coming home after spending 5 days hunting deer, hardly being at home. I'm going away on the weekend to go hunt deer again for fun.
Yeah.
Kids go. The wife, she can yell at me. I can get over that. We can fight. But when the kids are telling you, it breaks your heart. You stay home.
Yeah. No, we'll put it this way, mate. It's a balancing act for this hunting business, and when you're doing what you're doing, it's even going to be harder again. So, do you find that every now and then you want to break from it? You mean like?
Yeah. There's plenty of days that I roll over and go, I don't want to get up and go to work.
Yeah, because there's a lot of
one job that I think once I'm there, I've never had a bad day when I'm there, but there's plenty of days when I just can't bother. I don't want to look at another deer. Get rid of the deer. But then you go and you get excited and you find something to play with them, and it's back to being a good day again.
Yeah, hold on. Flexmark Outdoors. Great show, gentlemen. We're excited for our partnership with Paul Boag's Outdoors. Paul will have calls available soon. Good luck. Happy hunting. Go fill the freezer. Good on you. Well, like I said, I think anything new like this is worth trying. And for the price that you're going to be selling them, I reckon they're worth having them in your pocket or around your neck. Look, the silly thing is, I don't very often go deer hunting without some sort of whistle or call around my neck. More so for the wild dogs and whatever for myself. But
as soon as I seen him make it, I seen a YouTube video he put up of it.
Yeah.
And I went, that's the sound. I've heard the sound lots. Like I've played with a lot of deer, and I've spent many a time. Like I've spent hours and hours following the same couple of deer around. I've sat and watched deer sleep for hours just to watch behaviour. I've spent all day with a group of deer just to see what happens.
Yeah.
And that's the noise they make. And I've spent a fair few years, at least the last 10 years, trying to work out how to make something that mimicked it. And finally I found it.
Well,
so that's where the sound's spot on. When you can make the sound perfectly fit them. It's just how to make it react right is going to be the trick. It's how you need to do it, when you need to do it, what conditions will get the best results is what I'm now going to work out.
Yeah, so with your sort of the little bit of work you've done with them so far, would you sort of just go into a gully, let's say for argument's sake, when we go fox whistling, you get to a spot at the top and you think, I'm going to have a whistle here and drag them to me, or would you wait till you sort of see a deer and then just see what reaction and see if it gets any others to sort of stand up?
I've mainly been playing with that side of it, seeing them and trying to get gauge reaction so that I can get a feel.
Yeah.
But I think I don't think it wouldn't hurt blind calling in a gully and getting deer's attention.
Well, especially at the end of the day, if nothing's happened. You mean?
I don't think it'll get deer to step out of their bed and come look.
Yeah.
Like if you can, and I have got it right before, just with mouths and even other like predator calls.
Yeah.
I've had it when it's been the right condition and mum's there, and you've made the call and she's got, and because they'll often hide their fawn.
Yeah.
She thinks you've got close to a fawn. Oh, she nearly runs you over.
Yeah. Yeah.
She would do everything in her power to come and have a go at you. That's where a lot of people, when they do find a fawn, they'll hear mum barking or carrying on, and they're like, "Oh, mum's calling you." Yeah. Mum's not calling the baby. Yeah. The baby's ignoring all of that. Like the baby, that it's not about come to mum. The mum's calling you as the hunter. She's trying to get your attention, like the old flapping my wing on my wing.
Flapping duck. Yeah.
That's what mum's doing. Mum's doing exactly that. Like she's trying to drag you away. Yeah. I spent 40 minutes one day with a big hind running around barking at me, and I just kept circling, going, "Your baby's here. I want a photo of your baby." And eventually I found his baby and got a little photo of it. But she was telling me she wanted me right, wrong, or nothing to follow her. Yep. And I just kept looking, going, "I'm in the right zone because you want me out of it." Until I found the baby to take a photo.
Well, I couldn't see it hurting. What's it going to hurt if you make a bit of a? Mate, the worst scenario is the deer's going to get up and walk away. But I'd probably do it in a location where I had good visibility, though, too. If I was blind calling, sort of thing,
yeah. Well, like I said, when I called the stag, I wasn't quite expecting him. I tried to get the camera and get ready, and when I looked my head out for the tree, he'd walked from 80 meters. He's now 8 meters from me, staring straight at me. I sort of ducked my head around the tree, went uh-oh, and then just stepped back around with a gun and shot him. I wasn't really ready for that at all. He come right over and went, "What are you?" It called him right in.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to skip through a few here, mate. We'll probably go for another. You happy to go another 15, 20 minutes and then give it away?
Yeah.
All right. So sorry everyone if we haven't answered your questions, but they're just coming through thick and fast, and we're just basically going through trying to sort out different sort of questions. All right. Callum McGibbon. G'day fellas. Gibbo Outdoors here. What sort of video camera do either of you fellas use? Well, I use a variety. So I'm not going to... Look, to be honest with you, the one you know how to use is probably the trick, no different to a firearm. But just stick with the major brands, your Sony, your Panasonics, your Fujis, can't go wrong. But have you got one favourite one at the moment, mate?
No, I vary between two. I got a Sony AX100 and I got a Nikon that I use. Yeah,
look. In the end, it's just knowing, like Pogie said early on, knowing, make sure you've got it turned on when you want it on, and that's half the battle. It won't be the first time that we've pressed record when it's actually been recording beforehand and you've actually stopped it. I think we've all been guilty of that.
Yeah, but 10 minutes of it in the pouch and 20 minutes of no footage of the deer.
And your batteries are going half flat while you're recording. All right. Fix Alp. Hi, gents. Do you prefer to start low or high in the mornings? I think you pretty much answered that before. You like to go high?
I like to be high as much as possible.
Yeah. Righto. Let's just skip through it. There's a few asking favourite venison recipes. We sort of went through that earlier. Okay, Hunter's Ministry. What's the most surprising thing a deer has done that you've seen over the years? Righto, mate, this is all yours. This has put you on the spot. You've probably had plenty of situations.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't surprise me anymore because I don't put expectations on them. Yeah. They do random stuff. Yeah, I don't know what the most surprising thing has been. Top of my head, I'm really stumped on that one.
No, look, to be honest with you, I wouldn't say one thing either. Every time you think you got them worked out, they do something different. Every time you think they're going to be somewhere, they're totally the opposite, and they outsmart you quite often. That's for sure.
Oh, but it's changed. What was surprising to me is now not. Yeah. Understanding how they move and change. Like at one point in time, just when I turned my video camera on, the little click as it turned on would make them scatter, and for a while that was surprising me. That was just that subtle sound would make deer run. Yeah, well, surprising now. I'm used to that.
Well, we've had it.
Know me a long way away. That was surprising when they were a kilometre away and they're running. You're like, well, what are they scared of? I kept thinking it was someone else hunting this property I was on until I started working out it was the thermals.
Well, we've had it with a fallow before where we've actually been on a fallow ready to shoot, then the bloke's just dropped the bolt handle. And next minute it's bolted straight at you during the rut, you know? So, yeah. All right. Now, Tim Sigo, do you cater for all fitness levels in your courses?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody. Even mobility. I said at the start, I teach people to hunt their way, whatever suits them. They can't walk too far, that's okay.
Yeah.
We'll teach you you have to learn to shoot further.
Yeah. Oh, that's good, mate. It's good to know. Looks like we're getting to the end of it, mate, I think. Hold on, what do we got here? Okay. Shane H. Hi, Paul. What is your thoughts on stalking in raining conditions? And do you prefer stalking in the mornings or afternoons?
No preference between morning and afternoons. They both work quite well. Like, I don't really have a preference. I tend to do both of them.
Yeah.
The rainy days, it depends on how much rain.
Yes. Whether you got the wind behind it.
Yes, when it gets lots of rain, the deer just go and bunker down in their safest zone, which tends to be the thickest, hardest spot, where the visibility of them is meters, and then they're going to run when they get that close. If it's that sort of day, but it's blowing in and out and it's crappy and it's been around for a few days like that, I won't mind it. But it's a matter of trying to take advantage of them little breaks. You might get a half an hour, an hour break in it. The deer are going to go, oh, let's get up and feed. So you'll be able to find them any given time of the day, hopping up, moving around, trying to take advantage of that break. But general light, drizzly rain, really good.
Yeah.
It sort of dulls all their senses and the deer feel really comfortable. And low light is what it does. When you get overcast conditions, it's light. Like, deer don't have a clock. So they basically work on dark, light, and a transition period. When you get really dark, overcast days, it's that transition period where they feel comfortable all day. So they don't know that it's time to go to bed or have a rest because the conditions say it's still good. So they will move and feed all day on those days.
Yeah, definitely when that light rain, it really comes back to your advantage. If the wind's right and your scent just goes away. I've got the closest to any deer that I have in just a light rain. You might be soaked to the bone, but it's as you said, as long as it's not blowing a gale, teeming down with rain, they'll still be out in the move, sort of thing. Especially early morning, late evening.
Actually, more moving.
Yeah.
More comfortable.
Yeah, that's right. Just to keep themselves blood flowing through their bodies, basically. All right, Paul. This is from Peter Mann. Wouldn't a deer that's been chased by dogs with all the adrenaline be as chewy as a camel herder's jockstrap? Well, I don't know. I've never tried a camel herder's jockstrap, but
me either. No, it depends on how you treat it. It comes down to adrenaline. Adrenaline changes pH level in the meat.
Yeah.
And the lactic acid that is used to create the adrenaline is what normally, when you shoot an animal, that starts to break down and change the meat. Your hanging period is shorter, but because it deteriorates faster. So as long as you're prepared to hang it and age it, you will get nicer meat. It would never be as good as the unaware one that has no idea there, but you get it pretty close by letting it age for a week. You can hang it for a week. It'll actually come back to being pretty good. You take it home, you put it in the fridge, you cut it up, you eat it the next day, you don't do anything and don't age it and start eating it or freezing it, it will be gamier.
Yeah.
But I've had them when they've ran to the point that it's purpley sort of coloured meat and it's really sticky, and you age it and it can be so nice because it's breaking down because of the pH level, the adrenaline in it, that you can get really nice tender meat out of it.
Well, I remember you saying to me, basically your hand was forced recently to get another cool room or portable cool room. What temperature you find you run that at normally, and would you hang your meat skin on, and how long would you hang it for in general?
Yeah, in general, yep, definitely skin on.
Yep.
It keeps them from drying out.
Yep.
On average, I want it 7 to 10 days.
Yep.
Or depending on the conditions of the deer you put in there, will affect it. Like a hound hunted deer, 7 days max.
Yeah.
Normal stalking deer, 7 to 10 days. A deer that didn't even know you were there and it's dropped on the spot and you've shot it, you can hang it for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I run my cool room. It turns on at 6
degrees,
turns off at 2, so it runs between
around the 4 degrees sort of.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about the
That's
same as
the
mine.
hanging aging one. It's not
Yeah.
too cold. You
Yeah.
kind of basically need the good bacteria to start to break it down at that temperature. You get too cold and you don't get that, and you might as well be freezing it.
No, look, I found it pretty forgiving. Sometimes you have a little bit longer, as long as, like you said, you've got that meat cool early on too. Like if you're on a hot day and it sort of gets exposed to the heat for the first sort of half a day, that can change the whole outcome as well.
Yep. We want outside. I always worked on 40-degree days.
Yeah.
So if you're hanging outside and not in the cool room, it's 40 degrees. Whatever the average temperature added up. So your daytime temperature, when it adds to 40 degrees, that's when you've got no more.
No, it's a good rule. It works pretty well. Right, what have we got here? I'm just going to go through the last couple of questions, mate. I really appreciate you coming on tonight, mate.
That's been good fun.
No, it's been good. All right. Adam Thompson, hi guys, great show. Thanks, mate. Do you know of any deer population around the Echuca area along the Murray River? I'd say no, me personally.
Yes. Yeah. There's odd pockets of red and fallow sort of spread out everywhere. Yeah. But there's Samba starting to move through there.
Yeah, definitely.
They're pushing along the Murray.
Samba are very, very. They travel in areas that you wouldn't expect to find them.
They walk and move because they can. I wander over a hill just to check out what's on the other side of it. They seem to have that mentality of a nomad to just have a look. But they're definitely moving their way along the Murray.
All right, a couple of questions here. Shooter87, hi guys, what's the average distance you shoot deer at? Well, I'll say straight up under 200 yards, more likely 100 or less most cases for me.
Mine is between 70 and 120 most of my customers.
Yeah.
That'd be the average.
Yeah. Which is, just to remember, most 30 caliber rifles, 308, 3006, whatever, in that range, they're going to be more than potent enough if you put it in the right spot. So that's where I think we can get a little bit carried away with calibers and cartridges for most deer hunting situations.
Definitely too carried away on that.
Yeah.
I just need to do the job.
All right. Right, one last question, guys. This is an interesting one. Callum McGibbon, what's the worst injury you have seen a deer survived then maybe shot and seen while cut up? Well, I've had deer with other projectiles in, other bullets in them before, and I've had deer that have had their hooves, or actually at their, sort of at their elbow joint, basically must have got hooked in fences or something, and it's sort of locked up there. They're pretty resilient. They're pretty bloody tough. I'm sure you've found a few, mate.
Yeah, I found them with a missing leg from the knee down. One of the legs completely gone. That's missing. I found them with a few with like being shot and the bone is actually broken and ring past itself and then refused. I found it with that. I found one that had 3 broken legs. Was still fine. I found them with parts of their head blown, missing. Yeah. Coronets damaged and a lot. I've seen photos of one. I didn't see it personally, but it was shot through the head, and in the head, actually, the bone refused past the brain and actually like through the brain. And actually, the bone healed over, and part of the brain was left out.
Yeah.
I had another customer show me one that he sent me photos, and his brain was hollow. Rather than being a solid mass, it was about probably an 8 to 10 mil wall, and then hollow completely in the middle.
Fair income.
There was nothing in there. It was like liquid and nothing in there.
Well, you would have seen plenty where their ears chewed off. The dogs get into them when they're young or whatever.
Yep. Chewed off, missing ears, missing tails.
That's quite common. But anyway, mate, I'm just hung 5. I'm going to finish this up here. But thanks again, mate, for coming on. Hang 5, don't go away, but I'm just about to finish this. So, yeah, thanks, mate. Really, really appreciate you coming on, and I'm sure it won't be the last time.
No, not a problem. It's been good to have a chat with people.
Good on you, mate.